Well, Alexander Schauffele was able to get it done yesterday. Diesel, what an incredible finish in Louisville. Not a great start to the weekend. Obviously, we saw things get off to a little bit of a rocky start with players getting arrested. But when the PGA Championship comes down to the back nine, sign me up. What an incredible day of golf yesterday.
Man, I was watching the stream on ESPN Plus. You get like holes 13, 16, and 18 or something, whatever it was. And it was fascinating, man, watching these golfers coming down the stretch right at the very tail end, getting to watch them, jockey for position. A couple of golfers had some incredible shots down the stretch. A couple of golfers had some massive collapses down the stretch. Was it Justin Rose? I can't remember his first name. His last name is Rose. I mean, that dude was just putting it in the cabbage, shot after shot after shot, doinking it off people's heads and beer cans. What a time. What a time to be there.
It was a great day. It was a great finish. And unlike the Masters just over a month ago, this finish, this round of golf on Sunday provided the viewers exactly what we want. We want to be able to sit down on Sunday, Diesel, as I did yesterday, and start watching the CBS coverage after the ESPN coverage. The CBS coverage starts early afternoon. And once the CBS coverage comes on, we want to be able to see a really, really competitive back nine. And we didn't see that. You and I and Rob Brown watched the Masters together. We did not see that. Scotty Scheffler just tore his way through down in Augusta. That was never really close. However, I thought yesterday, and I'm not a golf guy. I don't consider myself a golf fanatic, but as a casual golf watcher, as I am, Cole Bryson right here on Wire to Wire, he's Diesel. I was fascinated with how that round of 9, if you will, ended. As you said, Xander Schauffele, however you want to pronounce it.
Schauffele, yeah. It took me forever to figure out how to say this guy's name because I was saying it wrong the whole time. I was saying Schauffele, and then I heard him say it. I was like, no, it's like soft cheese.
Yeah,
just like if you ever forget how to say it, it's like it's Xander soft cheese.
He was phenomenal yesterday down the stretch, just phenomenal. And you know what? There were so many things that I had as takeaways that we'll get to, but you've got to love being able to see like everybody gather at 18. Everybody knows that Bryson's right there. It's going to come down to Bryson and Xander, and sure enough, it did. And I tell you what was fascinating before we get into the points, Diesel, and my takeaways. What was so fascinating for me was seeing Bryson finish 18, go to the driving range, and to the left of the driving range, there's this huge TV, right, where you can watch what's going on. And he's out there driving as Xander's coming up 17, finishing 17. Here's Xander on 18 now. Bryson's driving, staying loose.
Gotta stay fresh, yeah.
But what's he doing at the same time? He's peeking back at that TV. I don't know that, Diesel, I don't know that I could handle that type of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
To be able to have to practice.
It gives me so much joy to know that he was out there taking swings for no reason.
Yeah.
Man, Bryson DeChambeau, what a turncoat.
You know what?
A traitor to this country.
He has grown on me in terms of his golf game and him being, his play on the course. He's grown.
He's making a lot of YouTube content these days too. He's taking on the silly challenges. I give him credit for that. I had a very hardline stance regarding Bryson DeChambeau, but I have seen some of his YouTube content, and he's kind of doing all the same things that the silly golf YouTubers do, right? He's like, I'll play with a set of clubs that are a foot too short for me. I'll play with these wonky illegal clubs, and he's doing all those things, right? And that's kind of how the way of the world goes. It was first it was podcasters, right? And it was always the pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, content creators, and they paved the way for making podcasting as big as it was. And then what happened? All the celebrities and the pros started doing their own podcasts. Well, then it became making your own video content. and all these people were making their own fantastic video content, but they were doing it at a low level because they didn't have any budgets. And then what happens? Guys like Bryson DeChambeau come in and do the same thing.
So I think there's a lot of people talking about Bryson Diesel. I think there's a lot of people who are allowing Bryson the golfer to grow on them, including myself. As many people agree on Diesel when it comes to live, I don't love live golf. You don't love live golf. There's a lot of people who have major issues with live golf, and they're all fair issues. However, when I separate that from what I see on the course, Bryson did grow on me a little bit yesterday. He was fun to watch. The fist pumping, the interaction with the fans. I was pulling for him against Xander, even though, everything you hear about Xander Schauffele is he's one of those guys, Diesel, that hadn't let money and fame get to him. He seems like he's one of the good guys from the people that I talk to and what I hear. But that was a freaking awesome finish. I will say this, and I brought this up to you earlier, and I want to hear our texters and our audience, our Tolos, opinion on this if they watched the PGA Championship yesterday, Diesel. Valhalla, to me, didn't look like the most challenging course. It did not. I mean, there were a lot of high scores. Now, they're good golfers, right? They're really good golfers. However, as I watched yesterday, beginning with SVP at like 9 o'clock all the way to the end, it just didn't look really challenging.
I mean, you could probably say that. I mean, I'm looking back at last year's PGA Championship at Oak Hill Country Club. Final scores finishing -9, -7, -7, -3. So, I mean, obviously, if these guys are finishing -21 and 20 on a weekend, then clearly it's an easier course than, for example, Oak Hill. I mean, I love the way, back to your previous point about the finish that we got down the back nine. Obviously, the PGA is designed, the structure and the way they build their tee times and their pairings is designed to do exactly that, right? Yeah. It is designed to give us the best players finishing last, and it is designed to have the best players who are neck and neck for contention, teeing off within 2 or 3 spaces of each other, 2 or 3 tee times of each other. The only other way, Cole, that I think they could make that any more entertaining, and I don't like it because it would really provide some kind of a competitive advantage one way or the other, is to reshuffle the pairings after 9. Because and then if you do that, you're going to have somebody sit for a little while and let people behind them catch up, right? That's the only thing you can do. And then still, even that doesn't guarantee that you get the finish that you want. I mean, ultimately, there's only so much tinkering that you can do to build the best possible format that you can. At which point you start to ruin things a little bit. No, right?
I agree with that. And again, to my point, I don't hate it. Like, I didn't watch that golf tournament yesterday and think, man, this is too easy. I don't like watching this. It was incredible.
Sometimes, there needs to be a mix, right?
Sure.
You talked about Scotty Scheffler just running away with it at the Masters. I mean, you saw a show, a spectacle of dominant golf, right?
Yeah.
I think what we saw today, or you saw over this past weekend, was a handful of guys all really dominating a course that's not the most challenging course they ever played at. But it also, sometimes you want to see these guys struggling to break par, right? And finishing -7, -8, -9 on a weekend. Sometimes you want to see them finish -20. And I think there has to be a good mix of both.
So say what you want to about the current state of golf. There not being a Tiger out there. There not being a guy that's as captivating as Tiger Woods. But I think it's in as good as a spot right now as it has been in some years. Because when you do get golfers, and to your point earlier, Diesel, when you do get a mix, when you do get guys like Xander and Bryson, even though he's on live, and you get guys like Scotty and Rory who are expected to be, the favorites going in, but then they kind of fall and slip a little bit. And then you have guys like Xander Schauffele who just absolutely light it up. I think it does allow the game of golf to have parity, because everyone talks about wanting the next Tiger. However, Diesel, I would argue that nobody wants to see the same guy win every Sunday.
Are we sure, Cole, that, here's some twisted logic for you. Are we sure that Scotty Scheffler isn't this generation's Tiger, in the sense that, Cole, we find it disappointing and we're saying, what happened? What's wrong with Scotty Scheffler? when he finishes top 10 minus 13 after being arrested and dealing with that for the entire weekend, right? Like he's still got this whole thing hanging over his head and he's still out there, crushing it on the final day. I mean, he shot, I think, a 5 or a 6 under to finish his weekend at minus 13. Yeah, he shot a 6 under final round to get to minus 13. He didn't start off super strong. I think he bogeyed hole number 1 yesterday. But we're looking at Scottie Scheffler and saying, man, what's wrong with him when he can't shrug off all of this and still go out and dominate the course?
Well, to your point, he did play well. He did play well. And a texter, this comes from the 285. Texter says, it's important to remember, even though the course difficulty was easier, every golfer was still playing the same course. So does it really matter that much? Asked the texter. That's a good point. I'm not saying there was a problem or an issue with it. I really enjoyed, like I said, I sat down yesterday. I didn't do much, by the way, yesterday, except sit down, Diesel, and watch the entire golf tournament, and then watch the entire race, and then watch the Nuggets. So I wasn't productive, but I didn't have a problem with it.
I just wonder, is your couch cushion ever going to recover from that?
Well, I was sitting in my chair. Dent? I have a chair that I was sitting in yesterday. I'm a chair guy. So, I loved it. I really did. Again, I've said this a million times. I'm not a golf fanatic. I don't play golf. I don't live and breathe golf. But casually following it, yesterday was the best one of the year. And it does allow me to look forward, Diesel, to the U.S. Open next month. And you talk about Scottie. Scottie was not in the top 5 for most of the tournament. Rory, who won previously at Quail Hollow, was not in the top, even though he was one of the early favorites. Again, still played a good still played a good 4 rounds of golf, but there were some really, really high scores.
Hey, even coming down the stretch, Cole, one thing I did want to point out was the near albatross from Robert McIntyre on 18. He nearly holed out his second shot on the par 5 18th, reached the green on his approach, and missed holing out by about 2 inches. I mean, he landed that ball from memory, probably 15 feet shy of the hole. It somehow, like, he hits it like a bullet, right? But it still lands softly. It's not bouncing by the time it gets to the hole. It's rolling straight, and he misses the hole by about 2 inches. He would have had a 2 on a par 5.
Yeah,
which is absurd.
Yeah,
which is just nuts. And this guy, insane. Robert McIntyre, he finished. Where did he finish?
Tied for 8th.
Tied for 8th. So that dude, weekend, he could have jumped up into the top 5 if he had made that shot.
He could have. And I'll tell you this, watching as I did yesterday, a couple of names that popped off. Shane Lowry was incredible. Like, he really, really impressed me yesterday. He played, I think, he finished tied for 6th, finished 1 under in round 4, finished 14 under on the tournament. Shane Lowry really impressed me. And then a guy that's getting more and more talked about, and I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, I'm sure, but Theegala, Theegala.
Yeah.
He is absolutely coming on the scene in a strong way. And like, for somebody
Shahith, I think is his first name.
Yeah.
Shahith.
One more time.
Shahith.
I like watching him play,
Sahith.
man. One of those is right. I like watching him play. He really, like, I'll say this. I think he is a guy that is going to be an American golfer here soon that's going to be contending every Sunday. I really mean that. He finished 12 under. I was really impressed with him, really impressed with Shane Lowry. Obviously, as you said, McIntyre played well, but I think Victor Hovland, who finished 18 under, fell a little bit, slipped a little bit at the very end. Diesel, I think Victor Hovland's going to be the guy that goes out and finishes top 2, if not wins the Open. I think he's the favorite for me.
You know what I've found really interesting, Cole, is we, for a while there, and it feels like this was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a surge of like Korean players who were playing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And were really making pushes for the top 15, 20 in the world. And it feels like we have gotten a huge drop off from there. The best Korean player that finished yesterday was Tom Kim. He finished tied for 26th at what was his final score? -9 overall. So, I mean, still it finished -9.
Really
right?
good golf, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we had this push for a while. Byung-Hun An finished at -6, tied for 43rd. Clemson's Lucas Glover, by the way, shout out to him, finished -6, tied for 43rd. So
pretty
shout
good
out for finishing in the top 50 in the PGA Championship.
So I'll tell you what I did yesterday. Diesel, I really thought that before the round started, before round 4 started, I really thought Bryson was going to come back and win. So I put a little bit of cash, a little bit of jingle on Bryson. Before the round started, I put a little, the odds,
how much did it hurt when he put that one in the bunker on 18?
Well, I don't know.
Were you freaking out?
No, I wasn't. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I don't know that a lot of times, man, I think they'd rather have it in the bunker than deep in the rough. You know, like I'll say this. I had
Depends
money.
on how hard the bunkers are.
Sure. I put a little bit of cheese on Bryson. So I was watching the whole day. It gets to 17. 17, Bryson finishes, goes on to 18. When Xander gets on 17, all he needed to do after he finished, all he needed to do on 18 was birdie the win, which he did. But when Xander on 18 put it in the sand, or on the edge of the sand rather, and he had a stand in the sand, that's where I was worried. I thought, okay, this is going to be a tough shot. He's going to have to stand 2 or 3 feet deep in the sand, right? Yep. And get it out of here, get out of the rough. And this is going to be a tough birdie. However, he did. Let me tell you what I did. I already had money on Bryson. So as I watched that shot yesterday, I live bet Xander when I see that ball hit on the green. Because it was par 5, he only needed the par 4 to win it. And when I saw where that ball landed, I live bet, I guess is the correct past tense version of that, so that I could hedge the bet and not lose the money on Bryson. So I ended up coming out okay. But down the stretch, when you do have a little bit of cheese on it, it makes it really, really intense.
And the absurdity of that shot, what Xander did, standing in the bunker, his feet were easily a foot below the ball.
They were.
And like to choke up on, I don't know what he hit at the time. Might have been a fairway wood, whatever club he hit, to get that even remotely close and not put it up there in the stand somewhere. I mean, that shows you, Cole, the level that these guys are playing at, right? These guys make mistakes just like everybody else. But when they make a mistake, man, they recover so well. And that's what makes, PGA championship level golf that much more fascinating.
That was a big time shot.
And my issues with Liv, I was happy. I was giddy when I saw Bryson put it in the sand there on 18. Like, I was just wondering, was it nerves? Was it pressure? Was it fatigue? But then he still came out and made birdie and forced Xander Schauffele to birdie to win. And it was absolutely fascinating and compelling to watch.
So I think Bryson on 17 shot par. And I believe it was a par 4. I believe it was his 3rd shot, Diesel, that just stopped on a dime. Like, just stopped cold. And if that ball could have got a little bit more roll, I feel like Bryson could have birdied on 17, birdied on 18, and then he would have had it won, because Xander would have had an eagle, right? And that wasn't going to happen on 18. But I'll put a bow on it by saying this. I loved yesterday. I loved the ending, the way that Bryson played Xander all the way through. What was intriguing to me was that Bryson was a couple of holes in front. So you saw him finish, and then you have to see what Xander does. Can Xander slip, right? I love that. If you, Diesel, give me that every single Sunday, especially on the majors, if I can have a golf tournament come down to the back 9 between whether it be 1, 2, 3 guys, whatever it may be, I'm all in. I thought it was absolutely fascinating, and I'm already looking forward to the U.S. Open.
Cole, is it time for Braves fans to start panicking? God. There is so much going wrong with the Atlanta Braves. A little live update for you, Cole. Now that it's 3:20, the first game of today's doubleheader between the Padres and the Braves has gone final.
Pitiful.
And it did not go the Bravos' way. That means they are now 0-3 against the Padres in this stretch. Should Braves fans be freaking out? We're going to talk about it next here on Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. You are the Tolos, and this is the Fan Upstate. Oh, it's so hard to watch the Atlanta Braves right now.
I'm just not going to.
It is unwatchable, this team. The hell is going on down there in Atlanta? First, it was a couple of stars who couldn't hit while everybody else was hitting. Now those stars are starting to hit again and everybody else is falling off. And then you're just missing opportunities and you're giving up big leads late. I mean, this is how a team drops to the middle of the divisional race. But luckily for the Braves, they built themselves such a nice lead early on that they are a little bit insulated, right? They're a little bit protected from the crappy baseball they are playing right now. Is it time to panic if you were a Braves fan? No. I mean, like, I'm not going to do this whole thing where we talk for 5 minutes about something and then we just pull the rug out from under you and say, no, it's not time. It's not time to panic. It's not. But if this continues, it will be time to panic if you are an Atlanta Braves fan. They have now lost 3 in a row to the Padres after a 6-5 loss earlier today. Cole, you said it was a grand slam by the Padres?
No, Matt Olson missed a grand slam earlier in the game that could have put this game away.
Excuse me. Apologies.
The Braves bullpen fell apart. Imagine that, right?
Oh, really?
Jimenez, pitiful.
Yeah. You go down the list. I don't even want to talk about the first 2 games in this series where they scored 1 run in each of the first 2 games in this series. But today's game, again, that ended earlier, it was a 12-20 first pitch. Ronald Acuna and Matt Olson, 2 of the players that I was just talking about, when everybody else was hitting white hot, they were starting to cool off. Well, now that they've started to hit again, everybody else is cooling off. Ronald Acuna went 3 for 5, scored a run and an RBI today. Matt Olson went 2 for 4 with a home run in today's game. They are recovering a little bit, man. Like, I'm looking down these batting averages on the season. I'm seeing a lot of first-digit 2s, and I don't like it. That is not good. You're not going to win a whole lot of games if you've got almost all of your roster hitting in first-digit 2 batting average. Marcell Ozuna, the only player on the Braves main roster. I mean, I'm not talking about, was it Zach Short that's playing for Austin Riley at third base. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about everybody else. He's the only guy who's hitting above 300 right now, and he's hitting a 321. So who knows, man? There's a whole lot of players on this team who are in danger of hitting that Mendoza line.
I tweeted out earlier when it was 5-0. Olsen was hitting well. Acuna was hitting well. Ozuna had just homered. I tweeted out, this is the Braves we're used to seeing. I guess I jinxed the Braves by tweeting that out, but Reynaldo Lopez today pitched 6.1 innings. Didn't have a bad day. AJ Minter comes in, 0.2, and then here we go. Jimenez and Hernandez. Jimenez allows 4 runs, and Hernandez has to come in, close things out. The Braves couldn't do anything in the bottom of the 9th. They have a 5-0 lead late in the game, Diesel. Once again, it's pitiful. I'm not saying it's time to panic, to answer your question, but they're playing just pitiful baseball right now. If you have a 5-0 lead late in that ball game, you better find a way to hold on, bullpen.
I mean, Lopez is still just raking through batters. You said 6.1 innings pitched, gave up 5 hits, 2 runs, still has a season-long 1.54 ERA. God, the Atlanta Braves got so lucky when they pulled him out of the bullpen, put him on the starting rotation, man. He is crushing it for the Atlanta Braves, but it's just tough to watch, man. Like, they've scored 5 runs only 3 times in their last 10 games. And this is a roster that's built to go out and score 7, 8, 9 runs every game, right? They're built to go out and put up 10 spots on teams. And so now 26-17 on the season. As of earlier today, they were 5 games back of the Phillies, who are 34-14. I don't know if that's changed. I guess 5.5 games back now of the Phillies. So this is bordering on unwatchable baseball. Like, obviously a lot of injuries to deal with Riley and d'Arnaud, but the whole team being in a slump is not fun baseball to watch.
Yeah, but even if you've got a 4-game series against San Diego, if you take 2 and lose 2, it's okay. Like, there's no reason to panic.
They're 25-24 baseball team. They're a 500 team coming into today's game.
When they come in to your house and absolutely run shop, there's where you have concern. So here's a stat. Over their first 24 games this season, the Braves averaged 6 runs scored per game. It was the highest in the majors to that point through April 26th. Since April 26th, Atlanta is averaging a major league low 3 runs per game. That's 51 runs over their 17 games since April 27. So when you put a combination of you're not scoring as many runs, your best players aren't playing their best, your all-stars aren't showing up, and your bullpen sucks right now, you're not going to be a good team.
Well, let's see what happens with Acuna. I mean, one game it doesn't say a lot. Going 3 for 5 in one game is great. If you want to, it's hopeful thinking to say that's a slump buster. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if he can get it right again, maybe that bug, whatever that is, that bug that's been traveling throughout that locker room will start to go away. But Cole, there's still 120 some odd games left in the season. You look back at 2021 when they won the whole thing, and they were a difficult team to watch that year as well. And then they turned it on late in the season. So again, if you're a Braves fan, it's not time to panic because you're not in any way, shape, or form right now. Looks like you're in danger of missing the playoffs, right? So all you got to do is hold serve and turn it on late in the season, which is what this Braves team typically does, and then you'll be okay.
So the issue is, I hear everything you're saying. The issue is in 2021, at the All-Star break, Alex Anthopoulos made major trades, and those trades literally won him the World Series, where you do look and say, okay, maybe we shouldn't panic yet. Right now, the only team, Diesel, that the Phillies have beaten over 500 is the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, that's tough. Hey, you Tolos who are watching on the stream, we see 60 of you in here watching the stream. Let's get it up to 100. How about that? You Tolos, if you have not yet watched us on the stream, jump on our Facebook page, our Twitter, or our YouTube. That's at The Fan Upstate. Jump in the stream. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, the like button, the follow button, whatever is there on that platform. Of course, if you're listening after the fact on audio, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, however you listen to the show, we appreciate you. Just do us a favor. Hey, if you like something that we say, share it out on your socials and tell people to listen.
I don't think it's time to panic, but I will say this, Diesel. There are some concerning areas about the Atlanta Braves right now. I would say that when you look at their team and the talent that they have, we heard from people when we came on these airwaves, Diesel, and started this show before the Braves season started. We had people tell us this is the most talented Braves roster, top to bottom, that they've ever started the season with. It is May. I understand that. Today is what, May 20th? So there's no reason to panic. And I'm not saying Braves fans should panic. However, there are some major concerns. So the Braves, while they're okay in terms of like big picture, they don't want to go 10 games back in May or early June behind Philadelphia.
Well, they're okay big picture because they got off to such a hot start through the first month and a half of the season, and they are certainly squandering and floundering a lot of that right now with their terrible play, going on that 1-4, 1-5 stretch when they were playing on the West Coast, going through this now 0-3 stretch against the Padres. I mean, this seems just like a streaky team. And good news is, Cole, we all know that the talent is there on this team. And there's just some things when you're playing a 162 game season that just can't be explained. Like, why does the whole team get the yips all at the same time? Why does the whole team stop hitting all at the same? Why do they all get hot at the same time? Some of these things are just unexplainable, and there's not really a reason for it. It just happens.
Right now, the common concern is Joe Jimenez in the bullpen. And texter from the 978 sends in a great text. He says, last 7 games for Jimenez, 7 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 6 walks. That adds up to a 5.14 ERA. That's in his last 7 games.
Can't have
the
that
Braves bullpen has a major issue right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to start moving some guys around, man. Maybe bring up a AAA guy and take him off the roster, because if you leave that guy in, and with baseball, again, like I was saying, it's a tough thing. You don't know why somebody is suddenly so hittable, right? But you don't necessarily want to send somebody down every single time they have a rough stretch. You got to know, and that's what these managers get paid a lot of money to do, right? To sort of feel things, to get their hunches on things. and decide, okay, is somebody due or is somebody really losing it?
So what is interesting, Diesel, something for Braves fans to keep their eye on. Yesterday on usatoday.com, Bob Nightingale, who came on this very program 2 weeks ago when you were out, Diesel, Bob Nightingale put out a story yesterday that the Braves are interested in Zach Eflin. So Bob Nightingale goes on to say the Braves are keeping a close eye on Zach Eflin as a potential trade target prior to the deadline. The rotation, Bob says, has been circled as a likely need for Atlanta ever since Strider went down, as we all know, earlier in the season. Eflin is, again, pitching well in terms of like bottom line results. Right now, he has a 4.12 ERA over 10 starts, 59 innings. Right-handed pitcher, Bob says, continues to be among the best control specialists in the game with a 1.6 walk rate, though there are some red flags like, barrel-to-barrel rate, slightly below average, hard hit ball rate. He is allowing a lot of hard hits, but the Tampa Bay Ray, Zach Eflin, is somebody the Braves have their eye on, and I do think, Diesel, and our Tolos audience, I do think the Braves will make a move before the trade deadline, especially when it comes to the rotation. They've got to. They have no choice right now.
Yeah, there needs to be a little bit of a shakeup there in some of this bullpen, and maybe that can shake them out of the slump, shake them out of just the slide that's going on.
Yeah. Phone lines are open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Dewey wants to chime in on the Atlanta Braves. Dewey, what's up, man?
Yes, I'll tell you a couple of things that's wrong that I noticed. First of all, Brian Snitker needs to be fired. He's old, and he don't know what he's doing. Secondly, Acuna has a bad attitude. He's not playing good. He's playing worse. He's pitiful. And Minter needs to go, too. He blew 2 games in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Dewey.
Thank you.
Oh, you have something else, Dewey? Is that it?
That's it right now.
Okay, till tomorrow, right? Now.
I think wrong, and maybe right about Minter.
Maybe right about Minter.
Right about Minter.
Listen, I know I have a lot of Braves fans I have a lot of friends who are diehard Braves fans that lost love for Brian Snitker a few years ago. I mean, like 2 years ago, because he just won the championship in 21. I don't think there's any way a reasonable Braves fan can point fingers to Snitker. However, to be fair, when you hit times like this, Diesel, you do have to, as a manager, the responsibility does fall on you. You have to shift things up. You have to keep this team afloat. There's way too much talent on this team right now for us to be talking about the Braves being 5.5, 6 games back on May 20th behind the Phillies. Phillies are a good team, but come on. I'm not saying Snitker has any pressure, but
yeah, but the Phillies haven't exactly played the toughest schedule in baseball to this point. So,
no.
You
just got to be able to close games out. When you're up on a Monday afternoon, 5-0 late in the game, you've got to have guys that can come in there, and Jimenez isn't the answer. You got to have a guy who can come in and just shut things down. And Minter's not that guy. Jimenez isn't that guy. I don't know who the Braves have right now that they can really feel like they trust in terms of being able to throw them out there out of the pen and say, go get them. Like, you've got to maybe the Braves add a Diesel before the trade deadline. Maybe they not only add a starter, but maybe they go get 1 or 2 bullpen guys.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense here. Cole, just a little programming note for you Tolos. You can join us in Greer on Wednesday, 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. We're going to be live inside the corner market at the Ingalls Market, again at 1524 Locust Hill Road. You guys can win a $25 gift card, which could be your dinner for the night. You and the family take care of it right there. All you got to do is pay attention to our trivia questions or clues, and if you think you know the answer, you could win a $25 gift card.
The Braves will try to avoid the 4-game sweep tonight. 6:20 Padres Braves. Chris Sale on the mound. Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. The Braves now, Diesel, are 26-17 on the season. Vasquez comes in with a 6.32 ERA. Chris Sale's been a bright spot, right? As much as we talked about in the past segment, the Braves needing to work on this and work on that, Chris Sale has been a very good bright spot for this team. Chris on the stream says Acuna needs Andrew Jones teaching moment. Snit should have taken him out last night for that BS no catch last night. Chris, here's what I'll say to that. That's been going on Acuna's entire career. That's nothing new. Snit has been dealing with that for as long as Acuna's been a Brave, and he hasn't done anything about it before, and he's not going to do anything about it now. That's just, I hate to tell you that, but nothing's going to change. Acuna is who he is.
Little update here for you, Cole. I don't know if you saw this, but this was tweeted out 5 hours ago by Scott Eisberg, who we had on our show last week, regarding the situation between Somerville Baseball and what was their opponent's name?
Ashley Ridge.
Ashley Ridge. The executive committee special meeting has been called. It will be tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yep.
Public access via NFHS network site. The agenda is the appeal, obviously, of the baseball playoff game that was the Somerville won the game, but then lost it on a technicality that they had thrown too many pitches. Their pitcher had thrown too many pitches on consecutive days.
That's interesting. We'll follow that. That's, like you said, Diesel, tomorrow at 10 a.m. By the time we get on the air, we should know something about that. They did have to push the state championship off because it was supposed to start on Saturday with them in Lexington. So that'll be interesting.
If they need 5 hours to figure this thing out, Cole, we got bigger problems, right? I mean, if it's at 10 a.m., we're on the air at 3. They need 5 hours to figure this thing out.
They better have it done by lunchtime, right?
Yeah.
All right. I not only, as I said in the very first segment, was pleased with what I saw in the PGA Championship yesterday, but I loved what I saw last night, and I'll tell you why short track racing is the only way to get NASCAR back. It's the only way to get NASCAR back to where it used to be. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Jacob in Spartanburg weighs in on the text line. He says, I'm behind on the Odyssey app, but going back to the Braves, my instincts are to freak out and raise hell, but I guess I've gotten old, or maybe Crooked Joe has me too stressed about money and groceries, but I honestly have just stopped watching and don't care. I still hate it, though. Well, people...
Hey, that's called finding balance in your life.
There's truth to that. However, Diesel, when they're not on TV, you can't watch them. You know,
it's
you can't watch them.
I've got a connection on a login for the Bally Network.
Yeah, I have
I get to watch the Braves.
I have an offshore connection. Does that count?
Sure. Yeah. So you do watch the Braves play?
Yeah.
You watch them lose a lot more than anything else.
I sure do. As I teased, coming out of the very last break, I love short track racing. I love being able to sit down and watch a race like last night, All-Star race. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did going in, but a lot of the reason that I loved it last night, Diesel, is because of, number one, it being a short track race. Number two, there being no stages. I'm not a stage guy. I know a lot of people are. I loved last night letting them run, and guess what? They run. There wasn't a ton of cautions. There was some good drama, some good juicy fights last night, and Ricky Stenhouse and Kyle Busch provided us with a little bit of drama in the All-Star race. Here is how that wreck sounded.
Oh, boy. Sideways. He's in the defense. He's done. Kapow.
Kapow.
Oh, man. I love I'm with you, man. I love short track racing so much. It's so fun. And the fact that there was only half a field out there yesterday. I mean, there should have been 40 some odd drivers out there.
I think that track's too short, though.
It is, but maybe that just means that the qualification for that race is a little bit harder. Maybe you make it so only 30 drivers can enter a race at North Wilkesboro. Not an all-star race, but an actual race. If they actually added it back to the circuit. And you have to think, Cole, after they've spent the amount of money that it takes to resurface a track like that, they're not doing that for one race a year, right? They're doing that for to see a lot of action out there. This was the audio, Cole, of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. being interviewed. I think he was in the medical trailer right after the accident happened. They take him in, they check him out. This was his response to what did you see and what's going to be your reaction after the race?
Just told Randall that he could tell Kyle I'll see him afterwards over the radio. Since there's no tunnel here, I can't leave. So I'll be here when the race is over.
Hold my watch.
Nothing. I'll handle it.
You know what the best part of that was? When he went into the pit lane, pit road, he parked in Kyle Busch's spot. Got out. I don't know if you saw it or not. For those watching, they know what I'm talking about. Parked in a spot, got out, climbed up Kyle Busch's tower, and just started chewing out Kyle Busch's pit team.
That's great.
It was absolutely incredible.
That's great, man. You make the track smaller. You put far too many cars out there than should be out there, and tempers flare, man. That's fun. So this was what happened after the race when Kyle Busch made his way back down into the pits and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. came and found him. Now, this is the audio from the Fox broadcast. This is not audio from the cell phones. We have that, but we can't play it because there's an awful lot of F-bombs, and the best part of the audio is covered up by a whole bunch of fireworks going off. So this was the Fox broadcast. They were interviewing Logano at the time, and then they cut from the Logano interview to go cover this fight.
I was on the line. I think all the rules go out the window of clean, so I knew that was coming. I was trying to maintain that clean air. If I lost the clean air, we wouldn't have won the race. So we maintained it all day, and bam, feels good. Feels great.
Congratulations. Joey Logano fired up, and we've got a fight going on right now between Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Those two crashed back at lap number 2. And now the pit crews are involved.
Hey, you go. Hey. Get out of this beeping truck.
Push the button. Yeah, there's a lot of beating and banging going on down there in the in pit lane, but it was wild to see that happen. You love to see it, and I think I had just mentioned to our guest on Friday, I really wanted to see these guys, tempers flaring and going after each other.
Yeah. Bobby from Gaffney wants to weigh in on Kyle Busch. Go ahead, Bobby.
Listen, guys, I know y'all probably don't agree with me, but Kyle Busch had the right to do what he did. It's lap number 1. Ricky Stenhouse don't have any business going 3 wide. You play stupid games and you get stupid prizes.
Ricky didn't get into him though.
He collar dropped.
He hung up. He said, "I'll listen off the air."
Yeah, I mean, it's a small track. Going 3 wide is a dangerous thing to do at a track like that. It really is. Like it was lap 2. Stenhouse didn't have to push that hard to move up at that point in the race. He didn't have to go there. So
Rubin's racing though.
That's
Rubin's
true.
racing. They have history though. Those two have history at Daytona.
Yeah.
There's been history between those two. I love it though. I mean, I absolutely love that there is fireworks after the game. Texter says, I watched the race live and Kyle Busch was out of line. There was no reason for that. I agree with that, Texter. Another texter.
For what? For getting into his left rear quarter panel, getting into his bumper. No reason for that. I mean, it's
running him into the wall.
It's racing, man. He didn't.
No. Kyle's the one that wrecked Ricky into the wall straight in.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about when he put him in? He hit him on his left rear bumper, and he went into the wall. That's what you're talking about, right? I mean, it's not like he turned into him to hit him. It's called racing.
No, there's a difference though. Like the only reason Kyle did that was because he was reacting to the bump prior, and I don't like it. I've never liked Kyle Busch, but Kyle Busch, ever since the cars changed, he hasn't been the same.
You know what I do? One of my favorite things about short track racing is aerodynamics really don't matter. You're not going fast enough for aerodynamics to really matter. And I don't know how it works with modern cars, with the modern materials that they use, but man, I miss watching, Bristol in the 90s when almost everybody had the front end of their cars torn all to hell. But get that crewman a beer, by the way. The one that was like, go on, get out of here. You get off this trailer. Come on now, get.
Texter says it was only a matter of time before Ricky Stenhouse got involved in another incident. Another texter says Busch pit maneuvered him. Yes. I love it, though. Listen, we want wrecks to happen so we can have drama. Do we think it's dirty racing? Do I think it's dirty racing at times? Sure, I do. But guess what? That's what NASCAR needs. NASCAR needs.
Yeah. Here, texter makes my point for me. Why is the bump racing but going 3 wide is unacceptable?
Well, the 3 wide's not what anybody has an issue with. The turn that got him, straight into the wall is where a lot of people have.
I look at it as just tight racing. I that's all I see, man. I didn't see him turn the steering wheel to the right because that's stupid. You're on lap 2, right? You're on lap 2. You do the wrong thing. You miss by an inch to the left or an inch to the right when you're trying to put somebody into the wall. And you've just ended your own day on lap 2. So I don't look at any of this stuff, especially early. Like late, back in the day, Dale Earnhardt was the best at pit maneuvering somebody on the last lap of the race. This is lap 2, okay? He wasn't trying to take him out.
I think he was. I really do. All right, Diesel, what's coming up?
On the way when we come back, Cole, we are going to talk about a crazy story out of New Jersey. And I know you guys are saying Jersey, Jersey Yankees, don't like them. Not the New York Yankees, but the Jersey Yankees, those who are going hard on a real population of geese that are showing up in their town. And I think we should be doing the exact same thing here in South Carolina. That's on the other side on the Fan Upstate. Cole, if I learned anything from watching The Sopranos, it's that the state of New Jersey goes hard. They don't mess around. I didn't know that until watching The Sopranos, that the Italian mafia was all over the state of New Jersey as well. Like, I figured for some reason up at that point, when did that show come out? Like the year 2000, I was 16, 17. Like, I thought that was exclusively contained inside the state of New York, but I was wrong, Cole. State of New Jersey, they don't play. They don't mess around. This story, Cole, should affect you and probably a lot of our listeners, those who are into hunting, especially bird hunting. A New Jersey town, Cole, is planning to gas dozens of Canada geese who have set up residence in their local public park. Now, if you don't know what a Canada goose is, look outside anywhere near a pond. You're going to see dozens of them. These things are freaking everywhere. Mm-hmm. We got them setting up shop behind the radio station. As a matter of fact, there's a little retention pond on the backside of Lowe's Hardware. I think that's where they go. But then they fly over to our little back lawn behind the radio station, Cole, and they poop everywhere.
It's terrible.
It's awful. It reeks back there. You have to tiptoe, little landmines everywhere because it feels like those geese poop like every 5 seconds, and you can't avoid it. It is everywhere. So, again, this town is planning to gas dozens of Canada geese who have set up residence at a local public park. The Peapack and Gladstone Borough, which sounds like it's straight out of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, honestly. County Council voted in March to hire federal wildlife officials to round up the nearly 60 geese inside Liberty Park when they cannot fly and terminate them with extreme prejudice. I put that part in there. That wasn't in the original article. By gassing them with carbon dioxide. That's brutal, man. What a brutal way to do it. But I mean, I guess it's better than, it's a public park. You can't go out there with a BB gun or a 22 and start picking them off one by one. You can't do that. So this is a quote from Councilwoman and veterinarian Jamie Murphy. She says, "These geese are a challenge in our town. There's goose poop everywhere. These toddlers and kids are running around in the park. The reality is our park is way too small to support that many geese. It's not good for them, and it's not good for us." And of course, Cole, these days, we got to argue about everything, right? There's no such thing as an objective fact. You have to argue about everything. The mamby-pamby hippies in town are saying things like, our town is going to be known as the goose murderers. It's not that big a deal. Let's put our big boy pants on and you can walk through the park with a little poop. You'll survive. Look, you're an outdoorsman here, Cole. You fish. I fish. I know that you hunt too. Redfish, bluefish, by the way, out here in our own parking lot. And I'm sure a lot of people have to deal with this as well, man. We have to dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge Canada geese. There's poo everywhere. They're mean. They hiss at you. Enough is enough. I'm with this New Jersey town.
So you don't think there's anything wrong with gassing them up? Gassing them up and just knocking them out?
I mean, what are you going to do? Round them up, put them in, little dog kennels or cat carriers and carry them to another town and say, hey, here's our problem. You deal with it.
No, I don't have a problem with it. Listen, the reality of it is geese are not good for anything.
No.
Like, they serve zero purpose on this earth, and all they do is poop on every single square inch of the parking lot.
There's ponds, Cole, that I can't even fish anymore because they've been completely taken over by geese. There's poop floating everywhere in these ponds. And I don't know what has to happen here, Cole. I mean, these birds are protected in South Carolina by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918. There's state laws, there's federal laws that protect them. They're illegal to hunt, kill, sell, purchase, or possess migratory birds or to harass geese to disperse them at problem areas. You can't do anything, which that makes it weird. Like, how are they able to go out there with the expressed intent of capturing and killing them in New Jersey? I don't know. I don't know how this town is getting away with it, Cole, but there's 6 months in prison or a $5,000 fine for harassing or dispersing a goose. If you're a company, you could get a $10,000 fine, which I would imagine is probably per goose.
So what you're telling me is if they're in the way, if they're being a problem, you can't go take care of the problem. However, if they're in your field and you're hunting in your field, you can blast away. That makes a whole lot of sense, right?
Well, yeah, if this problem comes along, though, Cole, you can't whip it. You can't do anything about them. The question is, Cole, is it fair or foul? See what I did there? Fair or foul?
I do see that. I like it.
To make these geese sleep with the fishes. You know? Because sometimes, Cole, let's bring that down just a little bit. Sometimes, Cole, you just got to make the birds sleep with the fishes.
This makes me feel like I'm at a Italian restaurant downtown.
Where they don't serve geese.
Tonight's special. Pan-fried geese.
Canada goose.
Goose, that's right. I said it wrong. I said geese. Singular is goose.
I hate these things, man. Like, you know, you never know what they're going to do. They're mean. They react to you. They come after you. They chase you. Like, most people in our audience probably have a story of them when they were kids, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins. Somebody got chased by one of these things. They're mean, and we ought to be able to take them out. They're not even, like, endangered, Cole. That's the thing I don't understand. I looked up their status.
Yeah.
They are considered least concern. They are everywhere. Why can't we get rid of them?
What's really bad is when you go near a goose or a flock of geese that are like perched outside the local restaurant and the mom is guarding the babies and you get like within 4 foot of them and all of a sudden, shh, you know,
yeah.
Shh, you ever had that happen?
Yeah.
They'll start running at you. That happened here a couple of days ago. These little babies they raise on our radio station grounds, they act like, you trying to get to your car and leave at night is violating their geese terms.
Texter here says, must be a slow news day. Well, Texter, we started off talking about the PGA Championship, and we had people texting in just like you saying, oh, this is boring. Don't want like that's the PGA Championship, and you guys don't want to hear about it. We talk about the All-Star race. One phone call. What do you want us to do? Yell about Dabo in the transfer portal some more? Because we'll do it if that's what you really want.
Dabo.
Texter here says there's a company that'll give you a border collie to train, and they send you to parks to run geese off. So there you go. You're not actually running the geese off. The dog's doing it.
Yeah, but the problem is when you run them off, they come right back. They come back the next day.
Yeah, we need a more permanent solution.
Yeah, like chopping their heads off.
Yeah, you just need to get rough with them. Sometimes, you don't want to get rough.
How do you?
But let's get rough.
My question is, how do you gas the geese without the gas affecting the humans?
Because you don't gas the geese out on the pond.
Oh, okay.
They capture the geese when they can't fly away. They take them to a facility, a chamber, to be exact.
Gas them up.
They gas them all carbon dioxide.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would. I'd prefer just to shoot them on sight.
You would think so, right?
Yeah, but overall, I'd say geese on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd rate them a -5.
Texter wants us to talk about Western Conference basketball.
Talk about the Nuggets and what are we going to next? We're going to
it's on the rundown. We got a 4-hour show here, Texters. 4-hour show.
Nuggets and how the NBA championship is going to be in the West. Cobra, you Texters are something else today. I'll tell you that, man. Something else.
It's true. But Cole, I found that story really interesting because you and I are both outdoorsmen, and those things drive us nuts, and we have to deal with them right here at the radio station as well.
Wonder if they'll be okay if we take matters into our own hands here.
Texter says Cobra chicken. Explain that.
Yeah, I started reading that, and I was like, what does
chicken mean?
Shane Barrett on the stream says, "Let's go Mavs," in all caps. Shane must be a Mavs fan. Going back to a couple of texts previous. Texter says, put this on the fight list for today. Kyle Busch flat out wrecked Ricky. He was just upset because he got passed by a move that he used to have the balls to make. Another texter says it was pretty clear he turned him on purpose. Not sure if you've ever watched racing. I do not think there's a driver right now that people hate more than Denny Hamlin. Everybody knows that. But if you had to get a second, if you had to rank a second, I think Kyle Busch would be the second.
Kyle Busch was like, man, I'm not getting all the press of being the jerk in NASCAR anymore. I got to start making moves. I got to start turning people around.
Oh, Texter clarified on his explanation of what the Cobra chicken.
Oh, Oh, yeah, that's true. Texter, we can't read this in its current form. He says that's what a goose is, Cobra chicken, because they're bleep holes. See, there you go. We can't read that live over the air. The FCC would frown upon things like that.
Come on, Texter, do better. Do better. Don't try to set us up. I was leaving the other day, and I was walking out to my car, going back to the geese, and there was like two, I guess it was a mother and a father kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7 little geese, baby geese,
They're
whatever you call them.
adorable as hell.
They are at first, and then they start growing, and it's like, oh, man. I wanted just to run them all over. Like, I know that's terrible of me. You have no regard for geese life. I just wanted to run.
How'd you get a $20,000 fine?
Yeah.
Well, 4 geese wouldn't get out of the way.
So let me ask you the question. If, going back to the geese point, would we get in trouble for taking care of the geese here? This is public grounds?
Well, yeah. Yeah, you get in trouble for that. It's a $5,000 fine.
So, oh, man.
And they could say, you're a company man here. That's a $10,000 fine.
Because they would rather me step in goose poop.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. The issues in down in the southern part of the state, there's a lot of alligators down there. The population is growing because they've been protected for so long.
Yeah.
That
I think I'd rather have to outrun an alligator, though.
I don't know, man. I mean, a goose could peck you, and that might leave a nasty bruise, but an alligator is going to take a chunk.
Yeah, but don't you feel like you have a better chance to outrun an alligator than you do a goose?
Not in a straight line. Alligators are faster than you think.
Really?
Yeah, you got a serpentine, man. They're not good at changing directions.
You got to take a hard right,
course correct. Yeah, you
hard left.
Yeah, maybe you would run backwards. You could juke them out a little bit, you know?
I just feel like if I had to go head-to-head with a goose or an alligator, I don't know, man. I feel like I could get away from the alligator.
Did you see that video over the weekend of like a 9-year-old little boy sending Tyreek Hill to the ground?
Yes.
That was wild.
That's
man.
how you have to outrun an alligator?
That's how you got to outrun an alligator. If you guys hadn't seen this, it was Tyreek Hill's see Texers, now we're getting back to sports, okay? It was Tyreek Hill's camp. And, you know, Tyreek's not going hard, but I mean, a little kid catches the ball. He puts on a move. Tyreek plays good defense on him for a second, and the kid turns around, goes the opposite direction on a dime, and Tyreek Hill falls to the ground and gets completely dusted by probably a 10-year-old kid, man. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was asking myself the same question. Like, just how hard was he going, right? Like, how intrigued.
But then again, you know, you look bad if you get beat by a little kid. People will say, oh, he was just messing around. He was just playing around. But you know the internet, man. The internet will never let him live that down.
No, they won't. Welcome, Spur Daddy, to the stream. Let's see. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube right now. I have about 75 viewers with us. Not only can you listen to Wire to Wire on these airwaves every day, you can also watch Wire to Wire. You want to see Diesel and I's face every single day, you can do so. Chris, Shane, Spur Daddy, all in the stream right now, talking not only in the stream, but they're conversating with each other. We appreciate you listening and watching.
I love the tweet that Dale Jr. posted. When did he post this? Yesterday, around 10 o'clock at night. He said, cement up all the tunnels at these tracks.
Yes.
I guess a lot of drivers, when they get wrecked out, they leave the race. They go ahead and take off and head off to a hotel or move on to the next track. I don't know exactly how they do it. But Dale Jr.'s right here, man. He goes, close up all these tunnels. Don't let these guys out until the race is over.
100%. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah. When I was a kid, there was no tunnel at Charlotte. And when we would camp in the infield, Cole, we had to walk all the way down. See, we camped outside turn 2.
Yeah.
But the showers were on the outside of the track on the top of the hill behind turn 2. So we had to walk all the way down the backstretch, walk across the track, walk all the way back to turn 2, take a shower. And of course, this was May, right? Like Memorial weekend, hot as crap. And so by the time you walked back all the way around, you are already sweaty and gross again. It's almost like you better not shower. You might as well not shower for 2 days.
Quick programming note. We're going to talk to Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for ClutchPoints.com. In the very next segment, we've had a lot of texters and a couple of messages on the stream wanting us to talk NBA. Can you believe it? Wanting us on this show to talk NBA. Before we do that, though, Diesel, I want to play this piece of audio related to the NBA. You know how a lot of times we hear people talk about professional athletes going broke? And, you know, I think that there is some truth to people who came from nothing get everything and they don't know how to manage the money.
Yeah.
But this is a fascinating piece, and I want to hear if you agree or disagree. And, we can come back to this a little bit later in the show and get our audience's thoughts, because I think our audience will have a lot to say about this piece. But it's JJ Redick on a podcast, and they're asking JJ just how NBA players really do go broke.
How do NBA players go broke?
They don't anymore.
Is that right? Why is that?
Shocked, bro. I'd be shocked.
Tell me.
All right. So I'll tell you how it happens.
Yeah.
Happened more. So I don't know what the average, but during my career, the average NBA career was like 4.5 years, roughly. Okay. So if you play 4.5 years, that means you're not getting to a real second contract. You're likely making 750, 1.2, 1.5. Maybe you get an exception, 2.9. Okay, so you've made $8 million over 4.5 years. Let's call it you made $10 million over 5 years. All right, you've got $5 million to spend. You're in the NBA, you're going to get a nice car, you're probably going to buy a nice house, but you're going to take care of your parents. Before you spend another dollar, you're like, you got to pay your agent. Right, so you're not that. How is that supposed to last you the rest of your life? It's There were guys that I played with that I felt at the time, oh, you played 10 years and you made $35 million. All right, do the math on that. Add in the spending. That's how it happens. Like my financial advisor, he told me that from day one. I'm like, it's all about spending. It's not all about the intake. It's the outtake too. It's what you go spend money on, right? Now, the reason I say it's just not going to happen as much now is, have you fucking seen these?
Well, that was our second of the day.
Wow.
Second.
JJ Redick.
How are we,
man?
2 hours into the show and have two little bleepers already. Streamers get the real version of it, though.
Good God, with this audio.
So, how do NBA players go broke? So, what he's saying is, let's pretend you don't make it to a max contract. You have $5 million, Diesel. You got to pay an agent, right? After you pay an agent, you then have taxes. So let's call it I don't know how much agents make. Let's call it 4.25. 4.5 million over the next, let's say you retire at 25, 26, because he's talking about 4.5 years old. So let's say you get out of the NBA 25, 26, you'll die at 60, 65. You would then have
wow.
Well, I'm just saying that's like the average death rate now. I mean, really,
is it really?
Yeah, it's low. Really, no kidding, it's low. It's not in the 70s anymore like it used to be. People are dying quick. That'd be like $80,000 a year.
79. The current average is 79.
There's no way people are living to 79.
The current average is 79.
I don't believe that. So, do you think these guys just forget how much money they're truly making? Like, there's people who would love to make $80,000 a year, you know?
JJ has a point there. Let's say you make your $10 million over 5 years. A good portion of that, is gone in taxes. Whatever tax bracket that puts you in, you're probably losing half of that to 40% to half of that in taxes. So now you're talking about $6 million.
Sure.
And then you got to pay your agent. I don't know what percentage your agent makes.
Probably a good chunk, right?
Let's just say they make 20%. Now you're talking more in the range of $5 million. So you got $5 million to last you for the rest of your lives. I asked the question, Cole, who are these guys thinking that they don't have to work for the rest of their lives?
That's true.
Right? I mean,
get a job, right?
Maybe that money's not supposed to last you for the rest of your life. Maybe if your ass actually went to class and learned something, you would be set up for a career after your NBA days are done.
Dang, Diesel. Go after him.
I know, right?
Go after him.
Hey, you make all that money in NIL, but you didn't learn a damn thing.
Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for ClutchPoints.com, joins us next. It is the newest afternoon drive show right here in the upstate of South Carolina, wire to wire, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. So good to be with you on this Monday afternoon as we want to bring in Brett Siegel. He is a national NBA insider and reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Brett, number one, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time to join us today, but I want to start with a trade that happened almost 2 years ago now with Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks. There were a lot of people, Brett, who did not think that this duo would work. However, the Dallas Mavericks and the Western Conference Finals, do you think that this is one of the better, if not the best duo in the NBA now?
It's certainly up there, and you have to look at the achievements that the Mavericks have had this season. And you just go back to kind of the trade deadline. I think that's really the turning point for the Mavericks, where you had Luka Doncic, you had Kyrie Irving, you know what these two were capable of, but you look at the rest of this roster and there were still some question marks and some incomplete holes to fill on this roster where they didn't have the championship depth that they needed. Well, they went out, they traded for P.J. Washington, which was one of the most underrated moves of the trade deadline. And then they also got Daniel Gafford, who is a starting caliber center that they were using off their bench at times. They were having Derek Lively, their rookie, start, and then ultimately Gafford took over that job later on in the season. But yeah, you have to go back to look at all these trades that they've made and really give the Mavericks front office props for seeing this vision around Luka Doncic and surrounding him with capable talents. And it does go back to this Kyrie Irving trade where they really didn't give up much when you look at it. This was a situation where the Brooklyn Nets needed to get rid of Kyrie Irving. He wanted out. They wanted him gone after the whole COVID and vaccine situation that happened in Brooklyn and the franchise going in a different direction. So the Mavericks ultimately gave up Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, 2 role players, and they gave up some future first-round picks. There's still that 2029 unprotected first-round pick, which could ultimately turn out to be a fantastic player depending on where the Mavericks draft position is in 2029. But when you're Mark Cuban and the Mavericks and you have Luka Doncic, you want to win right now, and you're not going to wait around until 2029 to do so. You go out and get an all-NBA caliber guard like Kyrie Irving, who has shown this season to be a two-way guard in this league, one of the more underrated two-way guards in this league. And he ultimately had a great impact against the Thunder. The numbers may not show it, but just those 50-50 balls, the loose ball situations where Irving gets his hand on the ball, starts a fast break going the other end, and then the Mavericks get either 2 or 3 points out of it. Those little plays matter, and we saw it in this series against the Thunder.
Find him on Twitter at Brett Siegel NBA. Brett, thanks for taking some time here with us. I'm Diesel, and you're listening to Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Has the NBA playoff structure, Brett, where games are spaced out with more days in between, essentially rendered moot the advantage of taking care of an opponent quickly, a la the Celtics getting through in 5 when playing a team like the Pacers, who may take 6 or 7 games to advance?
I think it's certainly a talking point, and I think that there's multiple ways to look at it where the Celtics have had all this time off. Does that positively impact them or does that negatively impact them? Because the Pacers are coming off of a 7-game series. They're rolling right now. They have momentum and they're feeling good about themselves. So they're going to enter this next series. Sure, they may be a little bit more tired than the Celtics, but in my opinion, I think that they're more ready to go. So you look at it from that aspect. Yeah, I think that could kind of take away some of the advantage. But I think that you also have to take into fact this past series of the Western Conference and Eastern Conference semifinals, there were days where they would have 2 days off before they played their next game. And I think that when you look at the Timberwolves series in particular, I think that kind of took away a little bit of momentum from the Nuggets. And yes, the Minnesota Timberwolves had the momentum early on. They won the first 2 games of that series, but all the momentum going back to Minnesota was gone because it went back in favor of Denver, where they had all that time to kind of sit back, watch film, regroup, and kind of enter the series thinking that it was 0-0 and just win 1 game at a time. So how do you fix this? Well, I really don't see the need to have that extra day of rest in some of these series where in the Denver series, for example, the Denver-Minnesota series, they played on Monday, May 6th. That was game 2 where Minnesota went up 2-0. They didn't play again until Friday, May 10th. So you're talking about almost 3 whole days of rest there, 2.5 days of rest. Whereas the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals, these teams are going 1 game you're playing, or 1 day you're playing, the next game you're off. 1 day you're playing, the next day you're off, and there's no extra day for travel. So I think that the NBA should just kind of get rid of that second extra day of travel. I think that it does defeat the purpose of having the advantage, especially for some of these teams that have earned it early on in the series. But in terms of these later series of the Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals, it's structured exactly how it should be. They should be playing every other day at this point.
Hey, Brett, the bigger disappointment in Game 7 yesterday, the New York Knicks or the Denver Nuggets?
I think you have to give it to the Nuggets of being the bigger disappointment simply because they were up 3-2 in this series. And they had all the momentum going back to Denver for Game 6. They're the defending champions. They have the league MVP, a guy that's won the league MVP 3 of the last 4 seasons. And then they blew it against a younger, inexperienced Timberwolves team. And granted, what the Timberwolves did in this series to mitigate Denver's offense is just absolutely fantastic. If you look at the metrics and the offensive rating for Denver, what they did in this series over those 7 games would have ranked them 30th in the league during the regular season in terms of offensive efficiency. So you have to give Mike Adoree, you have to give Chris Finch and this entire coaching staff a ton of credit for what the Timberwolves achieved defensively, but that's been the case all season long. The Timberwolves are no pushover. They're a 56-win team. They're one of the best teams in the league this year, and they were the best defensive team throughout the entirety of the regular season. So seeing them hold the defending champs to 70 points in Game 6 and then 90 on their home floor in Game 7, yeah, it's certainly impressive, but it shouldn't have come as a surprise to anybody. So I do think that in terms of the bigger disappointment factor, I would say that the Nuggets definitely have reason to be more disappointed than the Knicks. And that's simply because the Knicks were just banged up in this series. They never once had their full lineup of guys. It seemed like when they got one guy back or one guy was healthy, another one was hurt. Obviously, you had Julius Randle, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Mitchell Robinson out. But then you also had to deal with OG Anunoby's hamstring injury. That completely changed the landscape of this series because he was taking Pascal Siakam out of the equation. So now without Anunoby, you're putting more pressure on DiVincenzo, Brunson, and Josh Hart to carry the heavy lifting for the Knicks. And then Hart winds up getting injured with his abdominal injury. You have Brunson, who's dealing with his calf injury, and then he fractures his hand in Game 7. So you just couldn't catch a break if you're the Knicks. Ultimately, it's bad luck. I would expect them to be a team, though, that comes back with vengeance, comes back with a lot of fire heading into next season. I don't think that the Knicks are a one-and-done type team. I think that they're going to be around in the East so long as this trio of Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Hart continue to play at a high level.
Brett Siegel, national NBA insider for ClutchPoints.com, joins us here on the show. Brett, Hornets fans were here were obviously disappointed when the lottery didn't go their way and Victor Wembanyama ultimately went to San Antonio. But Brandon Miller had himself a season in Charlotte. First team All-NBA rookie. He obviously had his question marks coming out of Alabama, and Hornets fans weren't thrilled about Brandon Miller. Is he one of your bigger surprises of the season from young players?
I definitely think that you can make the case for that. But me personally, we saw this at Alabama. We saw the type of scoring weapon that he was. He had multiple 30, 40-point games at Alabama, showing that number one pick type of capability and potential. And for him to end up with the Hornets, I feel like it was a really good situation because they were in need of a scoring wing. Obviously, you brought back Miles Bridges. You still had LaMelo Ball, but there were questions about, okay, who's going to be the guy on this team? Is LaMelo going to be healthy enough, which it turned out he wasn't? And who's going to step up to be that next guy behind LaMelo? Who's going to really be this future all-star that they can potentially build around? And Brandon Miller solidified his case to be that player for them this season. He was quite arguably, I think he was the second most impressive rookie this season behind Victor Wembanyama, averaging 17 points per game. He showed the capability to bring the ball up the floor and be a primary playmaker and facilitator with the ball in his hand. He shot over 37% from three-point range. So I think that there's a lot of really solid building blocks here. And now the Hornets go into the draft looking at, okay, well, what's next for us? What kind of talent can we really get to solidify our core moving forward? You have the 6th pick, and in a draft where there's no real clear-cut number one guy, I think this is a pretty advantageous spot for them to pick because you're going to have some guys falling your way. Whereas when you're the Atlanta Hawks with the number one pick, you're going to have to make a decision on guys that are really comparable to one another, and you got to hit that pick on the head. If you're the Hornets, you're going to have to pick between one or two guys that fall your way outside that top 5, and I do think that that's going to be a good position for them. I think that they're going to look to address their backcourt next to LaMelo Ball and try to get that number 2 shooting guard option, get another guard who is comfortable being a facilitator but also playing off the ball, being a shooter next to Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. I think that that's the next stage of this development for this young Hornets team. Obviously, there's been some talk about addressing the front court, but you do have Mark Williams still there when he's healthy. You still have Nick Richards on his contract. So I do think that they're going to look to address the backcourt this offseason.
Brett, one of the major questions being asked is with Curry, Durant, LeBron, with these guys that we've known for so long being the face of the NBA, with them being close to that sunset, who is going to be the next face? Who's going to be the next guy in the NBA? It sure looks like Anthony Edwards in Minnesota is set up to be that guy. Any pushback from you on that?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I know I'm not the first person to say it, but I'm just going to toot my own horn. I've been saying it since before the All-Star break, that when you watch him play and just the level of swag that he plays with and the confidence, it's just so reminiscent of a young Michael Jordan when he was with the Chicago Bulls. It's so reminiscent of a young Kobe Bryant with the Lakers. Just you don't see players like this that come in and they just want to beat everybody, and they know that they can beat everybody. Anthony Edwards, he's challenging the best of the best out there, and he's not just doing it offensively, he's doing it defensively. And I think that says a lot about his character. I think that says a lot about his ability to become the face of this league. And that's why I do compare him to a young Michael Jordan, because early on in his career, Jordan was one of the best defensive players in the league. He used his athleticism to his advantage. He was able to push the pace in transition. That's really what got him on everybody's radar besides his scoring abilities. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with the growth of Anthony Edwards. He's turned into more than just being a guy that can lead the league in scoring. He's turned into being a guy that can be on all defensive team for multiple years at a time. So I think that the Timberwolves have their guy of the future. I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. He truly loves his role with the Timberwolves, loves being the leader there. And now they're just 4 wins away from making their first NBA Finals appearance, which I think they are going to make. So we'll see what happens. If Anthony Edwards can capture his first championship of his career at 22 years old with the Timberwolves in his 3rd season, I mean, just look at the path that he had to get through. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal in the 1st round, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray in the 2nd. It would be Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the 3rd. And then in the NBA Finals, presumably, it seems like everybody's pegging the Celtics to be there. It would be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's quite the accomplishment for a young player to lead his team past those names, those all-NBA All-Star players. I think that Anthony Edwards is well on his way to being that superstar like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry in this league.
Brett, should the NBA adopt a draft schedule more in line with the WNBA, where the draft happens and players are on the court for their teams in a matter of just a few weeks? I mean, it feels like the WNBA has figured out to strike when the iron is hot, keep the press going, but the NBA stretches this thing out.
I think that there's advantages to both ways when you look at it. And for the WNBA, where they're still growing their brand and it's grown exponentially through the years, I think that it is working for them to have the draft right then and there, especially when you have players like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, who have really dominated headlines there. They've been able to put the WNBA on the map more and draw more attention to it. For the NBA, though, the whole summer is dominated by the NBA schedule. And I think the way that they do it now really does make sense, where one thing kind of leads into another. You have the draft. It goes straight into free agency. It goes into summer league. Then you have a little bit of a dead period. But as we saw last season, that's kind of where the trades happen. That's the trade period where Damian Lillard was requesting a trade and looking out. So who will be those guys this year? And then obviously you go into training camp with even more talk about the rookies and then the preseason. So I think that the way that the NBA does it now, it works out. Could it be changed? Sure. But I'm always of the philosophy of don't fix what ain't broke. And quite honestly, I don't see any reason to believe that this system's broke right now for the NBA. They dominate the offseason. They dominate the summer with free agency and the draft. So I think that it does work out really well for them.
Brett Siegel, national NBA writer for ClutchPoints.com. Brett, my last question for you. You said that you like Anthony Edwards in Minnesota to advance to the NBA Finals. If Cuban can't get it done, I mean, I know he doesn't have as much to do with the Mavericks now, but if you can't get it done with Kyrie and Luka, what else can Dallas do, in your opinion? Because those are the two of the best players on the planet.
I think there were certainly some question marks entering the year of, okay, if this team fails again, where do they go from here? But obviously reaching the Western Conference Finals is not a failure by any means. I don't see them splitting up that duo anytime soon. I think that Kyrie's fully committed to the Mavericks. Obviously, Luka's happy there with the extension that he just got last season. So you look at what other moves could they make. They're going to be a team that's going to have a heavy payroll heading into the 2024-25 season. The only guys who aren't going to be under contract are going to be smaller contract guys like Derek Jones Jr., Markeith Morris, potentially Dante Exum if you don't guarantee his contract. But all the rest of these guys, these secondary guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber, they're all under contract. So now the question becomes, which of those guys from that group are you going to look to move to get a number 3, to get another number 2 option next to Kyrie and Luka? So I think that that's kind of where this management's going to be looking at. I don't see them taking a step back by any means of looking to get rid of Irving or Doncic. It's fully going to be buying all into this championship vibe and figuring out which assets they can sacrifice moving forward to go all in right now and really pursue a championship. So to answer your question of if there's still those question marks of, oh, will Kyrie jump ship? Could he join LeBron? I just don't see that happening. He's happy in Dallas. Dallas is happy to have him. And that pairing of Doncic and Irving has worked out really well, as we can see with their success in the postseason.
Brett, what are some realistic expectations for Bronny James in the NBA? I mean, I've seen so many conflicting reports. Some, they come from haters who just don't like LeBron. We hear he's smaller than expected when he made his way to the NBA draft combine. Can you give us what can we realistically think out of him? I mean, obviously you draft Bronny to get LeBron, but is he going to be a quality player in any way, shape, or form in the NBA?
He was the biggest unknown heading into Chicago's draft combine last week. And that was the number one player that scouts, executives, and league personnel wanted to see on the court. They wanted to see how Bronny looked. Was he in shape? How did he look in the scrimmages? How did he look in these agility skills? Everything was put under the microscope for Bronny James. And that wasn't just because he's the son of LeBron. It's because he's this draft's most intriguing prospect. McDonald's All-American coming out of high school, one of the top-rated prospects, went to USC, and then he had that cardiac arrest last summer, and that kind of really set back his status of his basketball future. Was he going to be even cleared to play in the NBA was the biggest question. Ultimately, this past week, NBA doctors cleared him for all physical activity, for all NBA-related activities. He went through the strength and conditioning and agility workouts. He looked good in them. His measurements, yes, a little bit smaller than projected. But then in the scrimmages, I think that he did raise some eyebrows. The first scrimmage, he didn't really shoot the ball well. I think he only had 4 points exact, and didn't really make any threes. He looked a little bit passive at times as a ball handler. But then the second day, he looked good. He scored double-figure points. He was distributing the ball a lot better, looked a lot more confident from the three-point line. And I think that's what teams wanted to see. I think that the most important attribute that he displayed was his defensive versatility. He's able to guard pretty much 1 through 3 on the court, despite the fact that he's a little bit undersized for guarding some threes. But I'm all in on the idea of him being a Davion Mitchell type player from the Sacramento Kings, potentially growing into a player like Derek White on the Boston Celtics. I think that that's really what we're looking at for Bronny James right now. And his draft stock is really going to fluctuate based on how he looks in these pre-draft workouts. Teams have been calling up Rich Paul for days to try to get Bronny James in for workouts. They want to interview him. They want to see him on the court in these individual situations. And ultimately, I do think that the Combine helped Bronny James a lot this past week. I could see him rising up draft boards. I recently put him back up to number 60 in my draft board that was released today on Clutch Boards. But he is going to be featured in our mock draft 2.0 next week. And I'll tell you this, he's going to be moving up from his spot of where he was to the Lakers in the second round. I do think that there's going to be teams in the early second round of this draft that either trade up to get Bronny or simply have their eyes on him, not only because of the potential to lure LeBron James there late in his career to play with Bronny, but also because this is a prospect that has all the athleticism, checks off all the boxes of those intangible type qualities where he can be a leader on the court, he's going to be a good locker room guy, and he's going to be dependable on defense. So I do think that the interest in Bronny has risen a lot since the NBA draft combine last week.
Brett, fantastic stuff, man. I know why you work for Clutch Points now, because that interview, that analysis was clutch, man. It was 10 out of 10. We appreciate you hopping on with us.
Well, I appreciate the time, fellas. You guys take it easy this week.
You too, man. That's Brett Siegel, national NBA writer for ClutchPoints.com, getting you caught up on your NBA. Really appreciate him taking time.
Texter says, damn, this guy's good.
He was
He
very
really is
knowledgeable. Very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah, fantastic interview. Way to pull that one in, Cole. Hey, when we come back, we are going to take a look at some of the biggest stories happening out there in the sports world over the last 24 hours. We call them Daily Wires. The buzz is happening out in the sports world. We'll get to that next here on the Fan Upstate. Cole, it's not a slow news day, as a texter earlier accused us of, because we were talking about weird stories. It's called a format breaker, texter. Sometimes you got to talk about something else.
Heck yeah.
Something in life, right? You gotta weave off the track every now and again. But here, Cole, in this segment, let's get to some of our daily wires. The buzz. There you go. They don't call them the best in the biz for nothing. The Atlanta Braves have lost 3 in a row to the Padres. Game 1, they lost 3-1. Game 2 was postponed. Game 3,
to today.
To today,
Mm-hmm.
yep. And that was eventually a 7-5?
Is that right?
I think it was 7-5. Game 3,
6-5.
Game 3, which was actually game 2, was a 9-1 game. Game 2, which was today, played game 3 in the series. 6-5, man. We're all over the place. Braves
true,
are
though.
26-16 on the season, 5 games back in the NL East. They will take on the Padres at 6:20, first pitch this evening. So maybe they can get off the schneid, maybe not get swept by a team that is now just 1 game over 500.
Braves stink right now.
Yeah, they were. You don't want to let a team, Cole, that is 2 games under 500 when they start to play you, come out of it 2 games plus 500.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you win tonight, though. You put those silly Padres back where they belong at a 500 clip. South Carolina got swept by Tennessee over the weekend. Just an ugly weekend. It's not like we didn't expect it, right? To lose 3 in a row to Tennessee, but to lose 3 in a row to Georgia and then lose 3 in a row to Tennessee, a 6-game skid to finish the season is not good. 33-21 overall, sub 500 in the SEC, 13-17. Clemson swept Boston College over the weekend. It feels like they're getting things right. They finished the regular season 40-13, which is good enough for 20-10 in the ACC. So they're playing hot baseball right now, albeit against a bad Boston College team.
Yeah.
But they are putting up a lot of runs against Boston College, and South Carolina is not right now, not finishing well in the SEC.
Good job, though, by Clemson finishing well. And as the ACC and conference tournaments start tomorrow, Clemson has set themselves up nicely as they enter the ACC tournament. They'll play Miami on Thursday at 11, and then they'll play Friday at 3 against Louisville. So the pool that they're in, pretty favorable. Let's see, Diesel, if they can win back-to-back ACC championships.
NBA conference finals have been decided. In the West, you'll have the Mavs versus the Timberwolves. And in the East, the Celtics versus the Pacers. The Celtics-Pacers starts on Tuesday. The Mavs-Timberwolves on Wednesday. Obviously, the winners there go to the NBA Finals. Joey Logano won the 2024 All-Star race last night in North Wilkesboro, but nobody's talking about the win, Cole. Everybody's talking about the fisticuffs that broke out after the race. A fist fight broke out between Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch after the race. Ricky threw a punch. Kyle fell backwards over some tires, and then everybody hugged somebody, and nobody connected after that. So it was fascinating, man. I just wish we had better audio of the words that were shared between Stenhouse and Busch, because there were fireworks going off, celebrating, obviously, Joey Logano's win there. We didn't get the full extent of what was happening. It's not great radio to try to make people listen through fireworks, right?
Sure.
So obviously there were some fireworks there in the pits after the race. A lot of F-bombs were thrown around.
There were. Best part, Diesel, was Ricky Stenhouse told Kyle Busch, he said, "I'll wreck you next week at Charlotte." He did.
I mean,
can't wait.
Who's shocked, though, that we saw somebody dressed in green and gray camo shorts throw a punch at a NASCAR race? It's almost like it's happened before. It's like, tell me that you drink Monster Energy drink and curse at your mom without telling me that you drink Monster and curse at your mom.
He was in his comfy clothes, man.
Dude, really? Like, who? Ricky, you're rich, okay? I don't know how much you got in the bank, Ricky, but who's your wife that lets you go out of the house with Monster Energy drink green camo shorts?
You didn't like him?
No. No.
He's chilling, man. He's chilling like a villain. He's wrecked. What's he going to do? You want to wear a tux?
Does he have some white Oakley sunglasses to
Probably
go with those
so.
shorts? I mean, come on, dude. Let's see here. Jefferson County prosecutors have not yet made a final decision on the charges against Scotty Scheffler, but there have been some reports, Cole, that they are going to be dropped soon this week.
Yep.
Xander Schauffele won the 2024 PGA Championship, 21 under for the weekend. Just a fantastic finish there to the PGA Championship. A couple other things to get to, Cole, but we are out of time.
We're out of time.
And we'll get to it later.
We will fight.
Yes, we will.
On the other side every single day. It's the 5 o'clock fight. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. confrontation, Diesel. I don't like arguments. I don't like conflict. But every single day at this very time, we have to battle it out. It is the most
Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse on each other.
You can. You throw the left hook, right hook, whatever it was he threw, and see if you can knock me out. It's the most interacted with segment each and every day on Wire to Wire. If it's your first time tuning in, you're thinking, what are you talking about? Well, it's the 5 o'clock fight.
You know the worst part about that fight last night, Cole, is I don't even think Kyle Busch got to throw a punch.
No, he didn't.
No, he got punched with a right hook, and then he fell backwards over some tires. And then, like I said, everybody hugged somebody, and they didn't get close to each other again.
So this is how the 5 o'clock fight works. If you, the Tolo, want to take part in this fight, you can do so. If you're on the stream watching live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, you can weigh in there. You can text the show 71307. That's how you can decide who wins. So there's 3 rounds. Diesel and I have to disagree on every round. You decide who wins and who loses. Let's get it started. Diesel, I've had several jobs in my life. You've had several jobs in your life. And I was listening to a conversation the other day with some people talking about this. And I said, oh, that'd be a good 5 o'clock fight. Which do you prefer? Getting paid weekly or getting paid bi-weekly?
Oh, I haven't had a job, Cole, where I got paid weekly since I was in high school. But I miss it, dude. I miss getting paid every single Friday. Like, I'm forgetful, Cole. I have to pay bills right away. So if I got to pay, if a bill, I get a notification for it, and then I got to wait like 8-9 days before I get paid again because, well, you know, bills go hard, right? I already spent all my money. I can't pay this next big bill for like 8 days. That makes me itch, dude. It makes me feel weird. I don't like it. I wish I got paid every week. You know, give me a half of my paycheck right now every single Friday.
See, I'm the opposite. I don't like the small amounts.
Oh.
We already get paid a very small amount, right?
Say that again.
I don't want it to get smaller. I want the larger amount, the better. Now, I do say the larger amount, the better, but I would not go to the vast circumstance of saying that once a month is better. Okay.
No, that's awful.
That's awful.
No way.
Having to make that check last an entire month, that's brutal.
You got to have so much discipline if you get paid once a month.
Terrible. I would say bi-weekly, I want the larger amount.
So with Odyssey, Cole, we've been paid in 2 different ways. We've always been paid bi-weekly.
Yeah.
But previously, prior to now, we were paid essentially on the 1st and the 15th of every month. And that has its advantages because you can schedule your auto payments and things like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, if the 1st or the 15th lands on a weekend, the bank won't pay out on a weekend.
True.
So they got to do it on the Friday prior or the Monday after, and things get a little bit weird. Well, they've switched things up, Cole, to go every other Friday. But the problem with that is, you know, over time, it creeps on you.
It does.
And so, you know, auto payments get harder and harder to deal with, especially if you're essentially living a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, right? It gets harder to deal with if you're not getting paid on the same calendar date every month.
Sure. That's true. Diesel says he prefers getting paid weekly. I say bi-weekly. What do you say? Who wins round 1? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Caller, we see you. We'll get to you after the fight. You can weigh in on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone as well. But it's time for Diesel. This is a weird question, but it has to be asked, okay? It has to be asked. We know that Friday morning, in the wee hours of the morning, Scotty Schauffele was put in the clink. The question is, round 2, today's 5 o'clock fight. Has Scotty Scheffler's image been tarnished at all?
What? No, absolutely not. He finished inside the top 10 at a PGA championship event. He has 10 top 10s in his last 13 starts. He finished with a 665 on Sunday, and he was playing golf with a felony charge hanging over his head. I mean, show me anybody else who could do anything even remotely close to that. Scottie Scheffler is incredible, right?
He is.
You can't go out there and win every single tournament you enter. Sorry, it's not possible. But I think this has actually enhanced his image because he's done an incredible job recovering from a really, really tough and stressful situation.
So I don't like this. I really don't. However, I say that what happened on Friday morning will tarnish his image to the public, and it shouldn't, Diesel. It shouldn't. Hear me clear. I do not think it should, but sadly, I think it will. When you have a felony and some charges against you, regardless of if you were in the wrong or not, it's going to be hard to clear that rap sheet, even if the charges are dropped. I agree with you. I don't think what happened Friday should tarnish his image, but I just think, unfortunately, it will.
I think it makes him more gangster.
It does. It does. 71307. Who wins round 2? Diesel says Scottie's image. No, it wasn't tarnished just because he was thrown in the old clink. He's fine. I hate to say it, but I think it will be a little bit, not much. Not much. All right. If you're split down the middle, if you're Diesel 1, Cole 1, well, here is how you can decide who wins. Diesel, this one's going to get a lot of debate, I believe. All right. You have the same cut of meat, whether it's a filet or a ribeye or pork chop, whatever it may be. Would you rather grill it at home or get it out at a restaurant?
Oh, man, the answer is easy. Grill it at home. Look, unless you're going out cold to a 4-star restaurant or better, no matter how you order that steak, it's coming out well done. I don't know. I'm not impugning people who work as cooks in this town, but some of y'all got to figure out how to cook a medium steak.
Yeah, I like medium rare.
Like you guys, something about it. Like y'all just leave it on. Maybe your grill's too hot, or maybe you're just busy. You're taking care of too many orders. But I can't get anything more rare than a medium well in Greenville. I don't know. Yeah, that's hard. Pitiful. It's hard.
Like, you just stop going to the Waffle House, man.
I got to order a steak 2 shades lighter than I want it to get it where I want it. That's the truth. So I'd rather grill it at home. You know, if I overcook it, that's on me.
True.
You know, and I'm not still expected to tip somebody who's just ruined my steak.
So I love to grill. Don't hear me wrong. I love grilling out. Love it. However, I also know and I'm aware that if I want a steak, the best of the best, I'm not going to go to a 1 or a 2-star restaurant. Sure. I want to go to the best of the best, and I want them to cook it on their grill because I would assume their grill's better than my $200 grill from Lowe's.
Sure.
And I do want, Diesel, to your point, I want it to be done correctly, medium rare, but I want the sear that I can't get at home, but I also want I want to be able to go out and not have to worry about cleaning up or preparing or any of that. I want to be able to go out, get what I want, leave, and be done with it.
Can I give you a secret here?
Yeah.
The answer to making the steak exactly the way you want it, exactly the right temperature every single time. And I didn't know this, Cole. I didn't know this until about a year ago. It's a little at-home device called a sous vide. You ever used a sous vide?
I have not.
It is you put your steak, your chicken, your whatever it is, inside of a Ziploc bag or like a sealable bag.
Yes.
And then you submerge it in water. And this sous vide is a device that clamps onto the outside of the pot that rapidly like heats the water.
I have seen
so
those.
What it does is it heats your steak to the exact temperature that you want it, and it holds it there. So then when it comes time to sear it and get that nice sear on the outside, you just throw it on a really hot grill for like 15 to 30 seconds on each side, just to get that little, get those lines on the steak.
And
then you
marks.
take it off. That way the steak is only seared on the outside, but it's the right temperature that you want it on the inside.
Shane asked, how do you spell that?
Sous vide. I think it's SOUSVIDE. It's 2 words. I think it's SOUSVIDE. Sous vide.
So what do you say? Diesel says the best steak, the best cut of meat. He wants to cook it at home. I say out at a restaurant. Texter says, and I'm glad you said this, Texter, because you're wrong here. Texter says y'all apparently haven't had the filet from the Trapdoor in downtown Greenville. Well, Texter, just so happens, like I said, wrong. I have. It's steak Fritz, right? Is that how you pronounce it? F-R-I-T-E-S?
Excuse me.
I have been to the Trapdoor. I love the Trapdoor. In fact,
I've never gotten the steak at the Trapdoor.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I never have. I've drank at the Trapdoor many times.
So it's called Steak Fritz. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. F-R-I-T-E-S. And what they do is the plate comes out with fries, right? And the steak is just laid right on top of the fries.
Oh, that's
it's amazing. So, Texter, I have had the steak from the Trapdoor. And I don't know if you work there or not. If you're a cook there, if you are, hey, let us know.
Hey, then you just slipped in a little plug for your business.
You did, because I just said it like 3 times on air. It is phenomenal. I would definitely recommend that. And I'd also recommend them being a sponsor of the radio station as well.
We would love that. Can we please do the show live from there?
Oh, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. All right, if you want to suggest a 5 o'clock fight, you can do so. Here's how. So, I thought that I would get pushed back on the grill. I really did. I know everybody around here, people like grilling, right? It does. It's a manly thing.
But hey, a restaurant, they may have access to ingredients that you don't have. They have access to techniques and better equipment, better grills, better, cast iron frying pans, that you may have, like using the cast iron that your mom gave you that's been in the cabinet for the last 25 years. It may be a fine piece of equipment, but it's probably not high-end restaurant quality. And hey, I'm not talking about necessarily going to a 5-star restaurant. I'm just saying, like, hey, you want a good ribeye or a T-bone or something like that. Get it and grill it at home, or would you rather go out to not a 5-star restaurant? An Applebee's, somewhere like that.
Yeah, real quick, spur of the moment. Agree or disagree? Cole's most hated steak, New York strip. The most overrated steak for me. Can't stand it.
It's not the best.
Oh, God.
Best.
I can't stand the New York strip, man. People need to people that say they like New York strips, I really think you have really, really big issues.
Then again, Cole, I don't know that there's a bad cut of steak.
I'll eat any of them. I'm a ribeye and filet guy. Texter says, who isn't living paycheck to paycheck?
Right.
What about this text? And I have not heard of this, but I need to get it. Texter says, I have a calendar set up with a warning 3 days and day of for every single bill I owe. That's smart. That's
really good.
I like that. It would drive me nuts though, right? Ding, wake up, ding, next day, ding, next. By the way, another bill.
I think the truth is, Cole, you just got to learn to live frugal until there's like 3 days before your next paycheck hits. And then you're like, okay, now I can go do something fun.
That's true. That's true. So let us know who wins. We're seeing a lot of comments, but we've got to know who wins the fight, okay?
Shane Barrett says Diesel wins round 1. Diesel wins round 2. However, I see Cole's point. Quit fence riding, Shane. Pick a side. Texture and Shane says Diesel wins round 3. That is a clean sweep.
Another payoff.
Yeah.
Another texter says, Cole, get the broom because you just got swept. Another texter, a grill is too hard to control. I like cast iron. So real quick tip. If you like you have a grill at home, Diesel? You have a grill?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad the texter brought this up.
I got one of the four burners that's got the double burner in one side. It's like a sear side.
Yeah.
It gets double hot.
So I love a grilled steak. Don't get me wrong. However, I want to let you, Diesel, and our audience know that there's no shame in leaving the grill and going to cast iron like this texter said, because once I did about 2 years ago for the first time, 3 minutes on one side, 3 on the other, with butter, garlic, and thyme in the cast iron. Filet. Talking about a filet here. There's no better steak.
Why are we doing a sports show? Can we just do a cooking show instead?
We
and
can
make all this stuff live on the air.
We can. We can still do it live on the air,
We
even
got
though
a
it's a
hot
sports
plate
show.
in here. Cast irons are a little too messy. Makes
and
a mess.
You're able to control the temperature, plus the basting with the butter and the garlic. Yeah, it's good.
Texter says coal 0, diesel 3. Also, air fryer steaks kick butt.
True.
Never had a steak out of an air fryer.
Air fryer, anything is good. I'll tell you, not to go down a rabbit trail, salmon air fryers, fantastic. Fantastic. Al says, sorry, Cole, diesel got you on rounds 2 and 3. Was that Scotty from BMW?
Scotty from BMW is the one who said that I swept you 3-0.
God, Scotty. What I do to you, man? Another texter says, sear, bake with butter and garlic and a cast iron is gas. Texter, I don't know who you are. I'd appreciate it if you put your name, but you're 100% right. That is the best way to eat a steak.
We do have a texter here that says diesel won round 1, Cole won rounds 2 and 3.
That's the first one of the day. That's my first win of the day, I believe.
Well, even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
Yes, even a broke clock is right. What?
A blind squirrel finds a rabbit trail.
Texter, I'm not going to read that text about where you had a great steak over the weekend because I've already given out too much free advertisement today. Okay, I don't know where that is, by the way. So let me know where that is because I'll have to try it. Scotty Mac, appreciate you texting in to the program. So I hate this, but it looks like Diesel's won today.
Ba-boom.
Spur Daddy on the stream says, I do the cast iron in the oven at 454 minutes on each side, sear on each side in the oven for 30 seconds. Yes, Spur Daddy, you're 100% correct.
Cole, as of right now, it looks like Clemson and South Carolina will be in the same regional.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast, Cole, which is going to make my next segment a little bit difficult, but we're going to pretend like they're not. Who has the deeper postseason run, Clemson or South Carolina? You could make an argument, and many people have, that South Carolina's tougher schedule prepares them better for a postseason where things get harder. Or Clemson, who's playing hot right now. Who has the deeper postseason run in baseball? We'll talk about that next here on the Fan, Upstate 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. You want to talk about it? Call us on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Cole, it's incredible. We had that texter a while ago texting in. Must be slow new days. You guys talking about geese.
He burned your grits, didn't he?
When
or she
talking about geese and then talking about steaks have been the two most interacted with topics on the show today. Incredible.
Texter, don't text back anymore about negative stuff. You've got diesel. During the break, he had to go get oxygen. He's so worked up.
This bottle of water that you see here on the stream has got water. It was frozen. It's been up against my forehead. I'm so hot that it melted the whole thing that fast.
Oh, God.
Cole, can we just spend the rest of the show talking about steak? I'd be totally down for that.
No, because I'll be starving. I'll be hungry.
Oh, man. South Carolina, man, they finished their baseball season like a baked potato, just in rough shape, dude. 0-6 in their final two series. Might have been a good idea to cancel that midweek game that they canceled. But South Carolina is in dire straits right now. Mark Kingston's job is on the line. If you don't believe that Mark Kingston's job is on the line, you are a Gamecock homer who must have some sort of family ties to Mark Kingston. I mean, you're tied to him the way that Clemson fans are tied to Dabo Swinney. He can do no wrong. He's just our guy. Yeah, makes everybody feel so good. South Carolina baseball ends the season on a 6-game losing streak, 33-21 on the year. Clemson finishes on a 3-game winning streak, a sweep against Boston College this past weekend, 40-13 overall. Cole, the question I have for you and I have for the Tolos, who makes a deeper postseason run?
Ooh.
I mean, I think it's still worth arguing this topic because despite South Carolina being on a 6-game losing streak, they played two really good baseball teams back-to-back in Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah.
And one could argue that playing the tougher schedule all season long prepares them better for regional play, right? You're no longer playing the best teams in your conference. You're playing, potentially some seeds below you that you should have a very good chance to beat. Now, here's the problem, Cole. As of right now, as of today's D1 baseball projection, South Carolina is the 3 seed in the Clemson Regional.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's intriguing as hell.
Well, you got to have them in the same regional, man.
I mean, there is a Raleigh Regional. They could be in the Raleigh Regional. Let's see. Let me get back to the link here. There was, I believe, the last time we looked at these projections, there was a Tallahassee
and Athens
regional
as well.
So, I mean, you could put them in one of those two regions if you wanted to and get them out of the Clemson Regional. But, I mean, hey, that builds some intrigue, right?
There's a Greenville region, too.
There is?
I don't know if it's I think it's North Carolina. Though.
Greenville, North Carolina, with East Carolina hosting. I mean, they're going to run out of regional sites with all this power in baseball in the Southeast. But Cole, again, I mean, South Carolina having a 33-win season in the SEC, it's still nothing to sneeze at. They had a good season, not an elite season. They found ways to lose a lot of games that they should have lost. But again, the question is, now that things slack up a little bit in the opponents that you're facing, could that SEC bias prove to be true? Could playing a tougher schedule all season long prepare you better for the postseason? And Cole, again, I love the fact that they're in the Clemson Regional. They very well could walk out of this region. I don't predict it. I think Clemson is the strongest team in that region by far. But I mean, what's the point in having this argument of we're in a tougher conference, so we're better than you, if you get into the regional and you can't make your way out?
Well, you have to, if you're going to make that argument, there's nothing wrong with making the argument if you can translate that into wins in the postseason. Like if you can go to the postseason in this projected field of 64 with South Carolina being at Clemson, if you can go into the postseason and knock off Louisiana and get to, the final game or even somehow get out of the regional, then you've got our attention, right?
Sure.
Then you've shown us, whoa, yeah, you did go 0-6 down the stretch. You did look absolutely pitiful. However, Diesel, 6 games ago, South Carolina was playing really good baseball. They had just beat Kentucky, right? The number 2 team at the time, the number 2 team in the country. They scored like 30-something runs on Kentucky that weekend. They were playing really well. So, if South Carolina would have taken 2 of 3 against Georgia and then got swept by Tennessee, I'd be able to sit here today and say, you know what? They've had a tough schedule down the stretch, but they're still playing pretty well.
Yeah.
I think they can make a run. Problem is, after what you've shown me, I don't have much confidence to sit here and say, yeah, I still think they can make a run because their starting pitching has been horrific.
I mean, they've clearly played well against teams that they are better than. They mollywopped East Tennessee State 15-2. They won 2 out of 3 against Missouri. They were scoring a ton of runs in that game, scored 10 in game 1, 9 in game 3. They only scored 3 in the game 2 loss against Missouri. They scored 15 against Winthrop. They put up a ton of runs against Georgia. I mean, they put up 21 runs in 3 games against Georgia. The problem is the wheels really fell off for them offensively against Tennessee. Number 1 team in the country. Tennessee's pitching staff is incredible. But, they've got to get things right going into the postseason here. They play their next game tomorrow versus Alabama, a neutral site in Hoover, Alabama. 2:00 game for the Gamecocks.
This is SEC championship.
SEC tournament, yeah. Is this going to be, are they going to be one and done in Hoover? Are they going to be heading back to Columbia and have a lot of time? See, I think that's really bad for the Gamecocks right now. You can't lose 7 in a row and then potentially have, 10 days off before you play again. There's no way that this team is mentally strong enough to make that turn.
Yeah, I think that you have to go win a couple in Hoover. I think you have to go win a few games in the SEC tournament and try to make a run at the SEC championship. I don't expect them to make a legitimate run at it, but they should be able to win a few games. Spur Daddy says Clemson goes further. Stick a fork in the Gamecocks. They're done. Fire Kingston. Shane says my hometown Hoover. What's that say? My hometown Hoover, Alabama. Go Bucks. Sorry, Shane. I had a hard time reading that. Diesel, if that projection that you and I are looking at, if it's correct, let's say it happens. Let's say it's Clemson, Louisiana, South Carolina, and Army, right? Let's say that
that's not an easy region to come out of.
No, it's not. And if South Carolina were to play Louisiana, you say, okay, how do they match up? Well, Louisiana, newsflash, 40-16, 23-7 in their conference. Again, they're not playing in the SEC.
Sun Belt's still a good league in baseball.
Still a good league. 23-7 is a very good conference schedule. When you look at what they did, when you look at what the Ragin' Cajuns did against quality opponents, Vanderbilt back in March lost 7-4. LSU only lost by a run in March. They played Houston, lost by 3, but took them to extra innings. So they've played 3 really good teams, really close, and they play Old Dominion, Texas State, ULM, Louisiana Tech, Marshall in the conference. Coastal Carolina, they did get. The Ragin' Cajuns lost 2 of 3 to Coastal, so not a great weekend there. But again, you win that many games.
I look at those as toss-up games between Louisiana and South Carolina. Louisiana hasn't played particularly well against the best competition on their schedule. South Carolina is slumping big time right now.
They should be able to. South Carolina, with the talent they have on their roster, should be able to go up against a team like Louisiana in the Clemson Regional, if that's what ends up happening, or a team like Army and still win a game. Can they get past Clemson? I don't know. But, Diesel, if you told me right now today that it'd be Clemson, Louisiana, South Carolina, and Army, I would tell you that South Carolina better be playing Clemson to move on to the Super Regional, right? They better take care of business. If they don't, that's disappointing, majorly disappointing. You've got to beat Louisiana. Your bats are good enough to do so. You have the hitting is there. You're able to hit the ball well enough to score runs. Your starting pitching has been the problem in the SEC. Let's see if what Diesel said a minute ago can come to fruition in, well, we've played a tough schedule. Now we've been battle tested. Let's go win a game or two.
Yeah, I mean, I know Clemson looked pretty good offensively against Boston College this weekend. They did give up a lot of runs. Clemson blanked Boston College, won in 8 innings on Saturday, 10-0. But on Friday, they gave up 6 runs. On Thursday, they gave up 10 runs. There's still a lot of big question marks with Clemson and their ability to close teams out. I mean, I look back just a couple of days prior to that, Tuesday, May 7th, they needed some late inning heroics to beat Charlotte at Truist Field in Charlotte. So Clemson, despite playing really well against Boston College this past weekend, they got some big question marks too, Cole. And I look at that regional as I don't think it's as clear cut that Clemson comes out of their own regional. I think they will, but I don't think they're going to go out there and just dominate and run roughshod. They're going to give up a lot of runs to teams like Louisiana and South Carolina that can score. And then obviously if those two teams end up in the championship game against each other, well, shoot, man, like that's when offensive firepower comes out.
It does. And again, Clemson's pitching hasn't performed well down the stretch. They have battled some injuries through the year in the infield and with Will Taylor, but their pitching has not been what it needs to be. They did move up one spot in the D1 rankings. They are now number 3 in the country. Tennessee and Kentucky still hold the 1 and 2 spot. Clemson's 3, A&M and Arkansas round out the top 5.
How do they project these regionals at this point? I mean, D1 baseball, I don't know how involved, if they are at all, in helping to advise or make any of these regions, but this hasn't changed at all. We looked at their regional from a week ago, Cole, and it had the exact same region of Clemson, Louisiana, South Carolina, Army in the same region.
So the only thing that changed was South Carolina in that previous projection was a 2 seed.
That's right.
South Carolina's now dropped to a 3 seed. So
they fell out of the top 25. They're now 26th.
Yep. Which they should have, right? They should have. But when you look at the field of 64, a lot of things, RPI, strength of schedule, conference wins are a big part of it. So these projections, I think to your point, I don't think they'll be exactly 100%, but I do think they'll be close. I really do.
Well, when you add the geographic portion of it, I mean, they can clearly look and see who are probably going to be hosts. There's not anybody like a Campbell from a few years ago that was just elite at a small level that just doesn't have the facilities to host a regional.
What's interesting is the SEC leads all conferences in that projectional with 11 teams in the field. The ACC has 8 teams in that projectional. The Big 12 has 7. The Sun Belt is another high RPI league with 5 teams in the field, while the Pac-12 has 3 teams in the field, with California stock beginning to rise as a potential 4th team in the field. The Coastal Athletic Association would have 3 teams, and then everyone else, Diesel, would have 2 or fewer.
You mean the Colonial? The CAA?
Coastal Athletic Association.
Oh.
I think that's right. Coastal Athletic Association. I could be wrong there. I don't know. I'm just telling you what it says on the website. So each of the everyone else with every other conference would have 2 or fewer teams, but let's see. The D1 baseball staff, Mark Etheridge, Kendall Rogers, and Aaron Fitt. Aaron Fitt, who came on the show a month or 2 back. Those 3 are the ones that do this projectional. So we're a week. I would say this. I think it'll be close because we're only a week away, like 1 week from today. Every Memorial Day is when they do it. So I think that this one might be pretty close.
How about this? I see I've counted 5 South Carolina teams that are set to make regionals: Coastal, College of Charleston, PC, Clemson, and South Carolina.
How about
Have I missed anybody else in the state of South Carolina that would be in a regional? I don't believe I have. So how about that? 5 South Carolina teams making the regional. State of South Carolina coming up in the world, my friend.
It is. And PC's gotten really hot as of late. Brandon on the stream says Clemson's pitching is their weak spots. Brandon, do we use periods or commas anymore, man? Clemson's pitching is their weak spot.
I think he misspelled there.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Clemson pitching. My bad, Brandon. I'm sorry. My fault. Clemson's pitching is their weak spot. Bats are their strength. says Brandon Gosnell.
Spartanburg J texted in and said, I'd like to see you suck in the Clemson regional. That will wake up the bats.
Dang.
In all caps, all in.
Dang.
Another texter says, beware of drawing a Sunbelt team in the NCAA tournament. Having seen teams from the Sunbelt in person, that conference is really tough in baseball.
Well, they have like I said, they have a really high conference RPI.
I was wrong. Last week, the projection was instead of Louisiana in that region, it was Troy, I think. Troy was in that region.
Oh, gotcha. Now, you mentioned the 5 teams from South Carolina. Coastal Carolina is a projected 3 seed in the Lexington region, which would consist of Kentucky, Illinois, Coastal, and Sacred Heart. Let's see. I'm looking for another South Carolina team. Charleston and PC in the Greenville region up in North Carolina are projected in the same regional. Eastern Carolina, Duke, Charleston, and PC. So there's 3 of the teams, and then you add Clemson, Carolina. That's the other 2, right?
Nicole, what flag is that behind your head?
That'll be Furman behind my head on the stream.
See, we support Furman here on this station. They support us, but we read all the text messages. Cole, texter said, "You missed Furman. Oh wait, their administration is a bunch of." Well, I'm not gonna finish that. A bunch of redacteds and couldn't afford baseball.
You can say the first letter, can't you? The same letter as the team.
Yeah. And no, you say it. And couldn't afford baseball with a $70,000 a year. They didn't finish that text. I assume they mean tuition. Got to be a Wofford fan.
Oh,
got to be a Wofford fan.
Jeez,
it's rough, dude. Come on, Furman, bring back baseball, would you?
I can't wait though. I love the.
We need the Stathakis family to write a check.
Yeah, I do.
Team back. Come on.
I do miss Furman baseball, but I'm excited for Monday. I love the college baseball postseason. I really do. It's fantastic, except for last year when the national championship was a blowout every game. Madcraft on the stream says Clemson got an easy draw in the ACC tournament, which will allow them to stay hot. They'll crush Miami tomorrow. What should happen, Madcraft? Should. Keyword. Should
Madcraft,
happen.
I know that you are a diehard Miami fan. Are you a diehard Miami baseball fan? Like, does it hurt you? Does it bug you when Miami loses in baseball? If they're not good in baseball?
Madcraft's not a Miami baseball fan. He couldn't name a single baseball player. He doesn't know who the coach is from Miami. Come on, Madcraft. Prove me wrong. I'm just messing with you, man. Just messing. All right, we will revisit those daily wires and finish them all the way through on the other side. Get you caught up on what's happening. The Braves, what they do. They played today. Did you watch? Well, I hope not. We'll tell you why up next. Well, the Atlanta Braves had a 5-0 lead today. And, when you have a 5-0 lead late in the ball game, you should be able to find a way, Diesel. Grip it and rip it, right?
Grip it and rip it,
Hold
baby.
on to that thing and not blow the lead. Well, sadly, the Atlanta Braves did just that. They blew a 5-0 lead and lost again. Right now, the Atlanta Braves just aren't a good team. Again, right now, key word, okay? I thought that today was going to be different. Matt Olson was hitting the ball. Ozuna homered. Acuna was getting involved. But the bullpen said, no, we got this. And the Braves lost again. So they'll try to avoid the 4-game sweep tonight at 6:20. Chris Sale on the mound.
He's been pitching well of late.
He's been pitching well.
Starting pitching has done well for the Braves. It's the bullpen that's really letting them down.
But I'll tell you what I can't do. I lost some cheese earlier today on the Braves. They were up 5-0, and I'm very, very upset now. I'm not going to bet. I'm not going to put any more cheese on the Atlanta Braves until they figure this crap out, okay? When you're up 5-0 and I start this show and think, man, I hit a little cheese today. Next thing I look, oh, they're losing. Oh, they lost. Come on. I'm not betting on you anymore. Hey, Diesel, Clemson basketball added another addition to their roster. I don't know how many roster spots they have. They must have unlimited. But they picked up Illinois State transfer Miles Foster. Foster averaged 12 points per game last season. Hey, Brad Brownell, still adding. He's using the portal. Dabo says who? Who?
He's using the portal, but he's not getting the big name guys. He's not getting a ton of dudes who maybe are ready to come in and play and contribute at an ACC level.
You don't think so? I think he's. I like the Duke guy. I mean, I know there's question marks there because he basically redshirted last year. I don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll see. All right, Xander Schauffele. Next daily. Oh, I forgot, by the way. We can't even do this segment because we didn't hear the daily wires.
Buzz.
There we go. Now we can start.
Yeah.
Xander Schauffele won the 2024 PGA Championship. Diesel, when's the last time you shot 21 under on the weekend?
I've shot 21 under when I stop at hole 3.
The flat tire on the golf cart?
Yeah, I can't. I just, you know what? My ankle, I can't go on.
Dang.
Take my 21.
It's true, though. That's incredible. What a freaking weekend for Xander Schauffele, even though there was some, again, as I said earlier in the show, just seemed like it was not as competitive of a course. Great golf.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
The whole time I was watching Colin Morikawa, who was paired with Xander Schauffele, and I was just thinking, man, he's not even playing the same class of golf. Colin was there.
Yeah.
He would make a mistake. I'm thinking like I'm watching the tee shot on, I think it was like 16 or 17. He was 30 yards shy. Xander was just right down the pipe every single time. Colin making mistakes. Though Colin did hit one hell of a shot out of the bunker on 18 where he had a chance to maybe hole it from the bunker. It was a really good bunker shot. Even though I think it was a blind shot, I don't think he could see the pin or the flag from where he was hitting from.
No, he didn't play bad. Again, my biggest takeaway was I think Victor Hovland's the next guy. Like, I think Hovland's going to be really, really hard to beat in the U.S. Open. We'll see, though. Speaking of golf, Jefferson County prosecutors, as of yet that we've seen, have not made a final decision on the charges that lie against Scottie Scheffler. However, there have been rumors that the Jefferson County prosecutors will drop those charges.
I think the PGA is going to make a sizable donation to the Jefferson County Police Department. They're going to get a new, built-up truck that's more like a tank than a truck. They're going to have something special next year.
Why do we have donuts every single morning now? Well, thanks to the PGA.
Dude. We went and had Ashley and I have become donut freaks. We've been going to all the fancy bougie donut spots in town.
Donuts?
No, I haven't been to a Duck.
Well, you hadn't been to a donut place yet.
No, we've been.
Here I
to
am giving out free ads.
Scouts Donuts, free ad for them. We went to Parlor Donuts this past weekend. All of them delicious, But I'm going to tell you, man, it feels wrong spending $6 on a donut, even if it's a great donut.
Well,
and they are. They've all been great donuts, but $6? Come on now.
Not to be rude and rain on your donut parade. However, until you eat the bacon glaze donut from Duck Donuts.
Is there a Duck Donuts in town?
Oh, Pelham Road, baby, right here. Pelham Road. Yeah, across the bridge.
Bro.
Across the bridge.
Pelham Road's that way.
Okay, Pelham Road. Pelham Road.
Do you know where it is?
Pelham Road. Yeah, it's fan-freaking-tastic. Oh, now I'm like, no more food.
We're trying to be good, man. Ashley and I are trying to turn this franchise around and stop eating like dumpsters on the weekend.
Yeah, I know. Madcraft says, I wanted to chime in on the Braves. Something to note is the Braves and Phillies have inverse schedules. The Braves have played a difficult opening schedule, but it's about to get easier. The Phillies open with an easy schedule that's about to get difficult. No, Madcraft, that's a good point. Diesel and I did point that out earlier about the Phillies. The only team I believe that they've beaten over 500 is the Braves. So you're right. It should get easier. However, it shouldn't matter. The Braves have a stacked lineup. They should be able to win these games. Joey Logano, Diesel, speaking of cheese, won the 2024 All-Star race last night. Do you know? It was a big night for me. I'll tell you why it was a big night. It was the first race this year that I successfully picked the race winner and won a little cheese last night.
He won. He led 99 of the 100 laps.
All but one.
All but one.
All but one. 199 of the 200.
199 of 200. Excuse me.
So, picking a race winner, Rob Brown tells me all the time that I'm an idiot for this. Picking a race winner is very difficult. Very difficult. Yeah. But I did pick Joey Logano yesterday. Finally got it right. He was the pole sitter. Only 20 cars.
Did he also win the pit crew competition?
I don't know. That's a good question.
He probably. I'm sure he has a really good pit crew, right? So I would assume that he had a really advantageous pit location. See, that's another reason why I love the short tracks, Cole, is because you got pit stalls in the turns.
Yeah, I regret not going there last night watching that race. I was like, man, I should have went.
It's not that long. It's not that far.
2 hours. That's it. Yeah. 2 hours. Been back by midnight.
It's like 40 miles from my parents' house.
See, I don't know why. That was a bad decision. I should have went. So congrats to Joey. He won a milli last night. He didn't get a playoff win. He didn't get a win in the regular season that cemented him a playoff berth, but he did win $1 million last night. Not bad. And then real quick before we hit a break, the NBA conference finals have been decided. In the West, you have the Mavs and Timberwolves. Series starts Wednesday. In the East, you have the Celtics and the Pacers. That series starts on Tuesday. My phone's going off. I guess I said something that was close to the word Siri, and it's freaking out over here.
Cole, when we come back, we're going to get into that very thing, NBA talk, with Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for ClutchPoints.com. We had a fantastic chat with him earlier, about an hour and a half ago. We want those of you who are just joining the show to be able to hear that interview. We'll bring it back to you next. Brett Siegel with ClutchPoints.com on the other side on the Fan Upstate.
clutchpoints.com. Brett, number one, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time to join us today, but I want to start with a trade that happened almost 2 years ago now with Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks. There were a lot of people, Brett, who did not think that this duo would work. However, the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, do you think that this is one of the better, if not the best duo in the NBA now?
It's certainly up there, and you have to look at the achievements, that the Mavericks have had this season, and you just go back to kind of the trade deadline. I think that's really the turning point for the Mavericks, where you had Luka Doncic, you had Kyrie Irving, you know what these two were capable of, but you look at the rest of this roster, and there were still some question marks and some incomplete holes to fill on this roster where they didn't have the championship depth that they needed. Well, they went out, they traded for P.J. Washington, which was one of the most underrated moves of the trade deadline. And then they also got Daniel Gafford, who is a starting caliber center that they were using off their bench at times. They were having Derek Lively, their rookie, start, and then ultimately Gafford took over that job later on in the season. But yeah, you have to go back to look at all these trades that they've made and really give the Mavericks front office props for seeing this vision around Luka Doncic and surrounding him with capable talents. And it does go back to this Kyrie Irving trade where they really didn't give up much when you look at it. This was a situation where the Brooklyn Nets needed to get rid of Kyrie Irving. He wanted out. They wanted him gone after the whole COVID and vaccine situation that happened in Brooklyn and the franchise going in a different direction. So the Mavericks ultimately gave up Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, 2 role players, and they gave up some future first-round picks. There's still that 2029 unprotected first-round pick, which could ultimately turn out to be a fantastic player depending on where the Mavericks draft position is in 2029. But when you're Mark Cuban and the Mavericks and you have Luka Doncic, you want to win right now, and you're not going to wait around until 2029 to do so. You go out and get an all-NBA caliber guard like Kyrie Irving, who has shown this season to be a two-way guard in this league, one of the more underrated two-way guards in this league. And he ultimately had a great impact against the Thunder. The numbers may not show it, but just those 50-50 balls, the loose ball situations where Irving gets his hand on the ball, starts a fast break going the other end, and then the Mavericks get either 2 or 3 points out of it. Those little plays matter, and we saw it in this series against the Thunder.
Find him on Twitter at Brett Siegel NBA. Brett, thanks for taking some time here with us. I'm Diesel, and you're listening to Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Has the NBA playoff structure, Brett, where games are spaced out with more days in between, essentially rendered moot the advantage of taking care of an opponent quickly, a la the Celtics getting through in 5 when playing a team like the Pacers, who may take 6 or 7 games to advance?
I think it's certainly a talking point. I think that there's multiple ways to look at it where the Celtics have had all this time off. Does that positively impact them or does that negatively impact them? Because the Pacers are coming off of a 7-game series. They're rolling right now. They have momentum and they're feeling good about themselves. So they're going to enter this next series. Sure, they may be a little bit more tired than the Celtics, but in my opinion, I think that they're more ready to go. So you look at it from that aspect. Yeah, I think that could kind of take away some of the advantage. But I think that you also have to take into fact this past series of the Western Conference and Eastern Conference semifinals, there were days where they would have 2 days off before they played their next game. And I think that when you look at the Timberwolves series in particular, I think that kind of took away a little bit of momentum from the Nuggets. And yes, the Minnesota Timberwolves had the momentum early on. They won the first 2 games of that series, but all the momentum going back to Minnesota was gone because it went back in favor of Denver, where they had all that time to kind of sit back, watch film, regroup, and kind of enter the series thinking that it was 0-0 and just win 1 game at a time. So how do you fix this? Well, I really don't see the need to have that extra day of rest in some of these series where in the Denver series, for example, the Denver-Minnesota series, they played on Monday, May 6th. That was game 2 where Minnesota went up 2-0. They didn't play again until Friday, May 10th. So you're talking about almost 3 whole days of rest there, 2.5 days of rest. Whereas the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals, these teams are going 1 game you're playing, or 1 day you're playing, the next game you're off. 1 day you're playing, the next day you're off, and there's no extra day for travel. So I think that the NBA should just kind of get rid of that second extra day of travel. I think that it does defeat the purpose of having the advantage, especially for some of these teams that have earned it early on in the series. But in terms of these later series of the Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals, it's structured exactly how it should be. They should be playing every other day at this point.
Hey, Brett, the bigger disappointment in Game 7 yesterday, the New York Knicks or the Denver Nuggets?
I think you have to give it to the Nuggets of being the bigger disappointment simply because they were up 3-2 in this series and they had all the momentum going back to Denver for Game 6. They're the defending champions. They have the league MVP, a guy that's won the league MVP 3 of the last 4 seasons. And then they blew it against a younger, inexperienced Timberwolves team. And granted, what the Timberwolves did in this series to mitigate Denver's offense is just absolutely fantastic. If you look at the metrics and the offensive rating for Denver, what they did in this series over those 7 games would have ranked them 30th in the league during the regular season in terms of offensive efficiency. So you have to give Mike Nori, you have to give Chris Finch and this entire coaching staff a ton of credit for what the Timberwolves achieved defensively, but that's been the case all season long. The Timberwolves are no pushover. They're a 56-win team. They're one of the best teams in the league this year, and they were the best defensive team throughout the entirety of the regular season. So seeing them hold the defending champs to 70 points in Game 6 and then 90 on their home floor in Game 7, yeah, it's certainly impressive, but it shouldn't have come as a surprise to anybody. So I do think that in terms of the bigger disappointment factor, I would say that the Nuggets definitely have reason to be more disappointed than the Knicks. And that's simply because the Knicks were just banged up in this series. They never once had their full lineup of guys. It seemed like when they got one guy back or one guy was healthy, another one was hurt. Obviously, you had Julius Randle, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Mitchell Robinson out. But then you also had to deal with OG Anunoby's hamstring injury. That completely changed the landscape of this series because he was taking Pascal Siakam out of the equation. So now without Anunoby, you're putting more pressure on DiVincenzo, Brunson, and Josh Hart to carry the heavy lifting for the Knicks. And then Hart winds up getting injured with his abdominal injury. You have Brunson, who's dealing with his calf injury, and then he fractures his hand in Game 7. So you just couldn't catch a break if you're the Knicks. Ultimately, it's bad luck. I would expect them to be a team, though, that comes back with vengeance, comes back with a lot of fire heading into next season. I don't think that the Knicks are a one-and-done type team. I think that they're going to be around in the East so long as this trio of Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Hart continue to play at a high level.
Brett Siegel, national NBA insider for ClutchPoints.com, joins us here on the show. Brett, Hornets fans were here. Were obviously disappointed when the lottery didn't go their way and Victor Wembanyama ultimately went to San Antonio. But Brandon Miller had himself a season in Charlotte. First team All-NBA rookie. He obviously had his question marks coming out of Alabama, and Hornets fans weren't thrilled about Brandon Miller. Is he one of your bigger surprises of the season from young players?
I definitely think that you can make the case for that. But me personally, we saw this at Alabama. We saw the type of scoring weapon that he was. He had multiple 30, 40-point games at Alabama, showing that number one pick type of capability and potential. And for him to end up with the Hornets, I feel like it was a really good situation because they were in need of a scoring wing. Obviously, you brought back Miles Bridges. You still had LaMelo Ball, but there were questions about, okay, who's going to be the guy on this team? Is LaMelo going to be healthy enough, which it turned out he wasn't? And who's going to step up to be that next guy behind LaMelo? Who's going to really be this future all-star that they can potentially build around? And Brandon Miller solidified his case to be that player for them this season. He was quite arguably, I think he was the second most impressive rookie this season behind Victor Wembanyama, averaging 17 points per game. He showed the capability to bring the ball up the floor and be a primary playmaker and facilitator with the ball in his hand. He shot over 37% from three-point range. So I think that there's a lot of really solid building blocks here. And now the Hornets go into the draft looking at, okay, well, what's next for us? What kind of talent can we really get to solidify our core moving forward? You have the 6th pick, and in a draft where there's no real clear-cut number one guy, I think this is a pretty advantageous spot for them to pick because you're going to have some guys falling your way. Whereas when you're the Atlanta Hawks with the number one pick, you're going to have to make a decision on guys that are really comparable to one another, and you got to hit that pick on the head. If you're the Hornets, you're going to have to pick between one or two guys that fall your way outside that top 5, and I do think that that's going to be a good position for them. I think that they're going to look to address their backcourt next to LaMelo Ball and try to get that number 2 shooting guard option, get another guard who is comfortable being a facilitator but also playing off the ball, being a shooter next to Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. I think that that's the next stage of this development for this young Hornets team. Obviously, there's been some talk about addressing the front court, but you do have Mark Williams still there when he's healthy. You still have Nick Richards on his contract. So I do think that they're going to look to address the backcourt this offseason.
Brett, one of the major questions being asked is with Curry, Durant, LeBron, with these guys that we've known for so long being the face of the NBA, with them being close to that sunset, who is going to be the next face, who's going to be the next guy in the NBA, it sure looks like Anthony Edwards in Minnesota is set up to be that guy. Any pushback from you on that?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I know I'm not the first person to say it, but I'm just going to toot my own horn. I've been saying it since before the All-Star break, that when you watch him play and just the level of swag that he plays with and the confidence, it's just so reminiscent of a young Michael Jordan when he was with the Chicago Bulls. It's so reminiscent of a young Kobe Bryant with the Lakers. Just you don't see players like this that come in and they just want to beat everybody, and they know that they can beat everybody. Anthony Edwards, he's challenging the best of the best out there, and he's not just doing it offensively, he's doing it defensively. And I think that says a lot about his character. I think that says a lot about his ability to become the face of this league. And that's why I do compare him to a young Michael Jordan, because early on in his career, Jordan was one of the best defensive players in the league. He used his athleticism to his advantage. He was able to push the pace in transition. That's really what got him on everybody's radar besides his scoring abilities. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with the growth of Anthony Edwards. He's turned into more than just being a guy that can lead the league in scoring. He's turned into being a guy that can be on all defensive teams for multiple years at a time. So I think that the Timberwolves have their guy of the future. I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. He truly loves his role with the Timberwolves, loves being the leader there. And now they're just 4 wins away from making their first NBA Finals appearance, which I think they are going to make. So we'll see what happens. If Anthony Edwards can capture his first championship of his career at 22 years old with the Timberwolves in his 3rd season, I mean, just look at the path that he had to get through. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal in the 1st round, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray in the 2nd. It would be Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the 3rd. And then in the NBA Finals, presumably, it seems like everybody's pegging the Celtics to be there. It would be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's quite the accomplishment for a young player to lead his team past those names, those all-NBA All-Star players. I think that Anthony Edwards is well on his way to being that superstar like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry in this league.
Brett, should the NBA adopt a draft schedule more in line with the WNBA, where the draft happens and players are on the court for their teams in a matter of just a few weeks? I mean, it feels like the WNBA has figured out to strike when the iron is hot, keep the press going, but the NBA stretches this thing out.
I think that there's advantages to both ways when you look at it. And for the WNBA, where they're still growing their brand and it's grown exponentially through the years, I think that it is working for them to have the draft right then and there, especially when you have players like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark who have really dominated headlines there. They've been able to put the WNBA on the map more and draw more attention to it. For the NBA, though, the whole summer is dominated by the NBA schedule. And I think the way that they do it now really does make sense, where one thing kind of leads into another. You have the draft. It goes straight into free agency. It goes into summer league. Then you have a little bit of a dead period. But as we saw last season, that's kind of where the trades happen. That's the trade period where Damian Lillard was requesting a trade and looking out. So who will be those guys this year? And then obviously you go into training camp with even more talk about the rookies and then the preseason. So I think that the way that the NBA does it now, it works out. Could it be changed? Sure. But I'm always of the philosophy of don't fix what ain't broke. And quite honestly, I don't see any reason to believe that this system's broke right now for the NBA. They dominate the offseason. They dominate the summer with free agency and the draft. So I think that it does work out really well for them.
Brett Siegel, national NBA writer for ClutchPoints.com. Brett, my last question for you. You said that you like Anthony Edwards in Minnesota to advance to the NBA Finals. If Cuban can't get it done, I mean, I know he doesn't have as much to do with the Mavericks now, but if you can't get it done with Kyrie and Luka, what else can Dallas do, in your opinion? Because those are the two of the best players on the planet.
I think there were certainly some question marks entering the year of, okay, if this team fails again, where do they go from here? But obviously reaching the Western Conference Finals is not a failure by any means. I don't see them splitting up that duo anytime soon. I think that Kyrie's fully committed to the Mavericks. Obviously, Luka's happy there with the extension that he just got last season. So you look at what other moves could they make. They're going to be a team that's going to have a heavy payroll heading into the 2024-25 season. The only guys who aren't going to be under contract are going to be smaller contract guys like Derek Jones Jr., Markieff Morris, potentially Dante Exum if you don't guarantee his contract. But all the rest of these guys, these secondary guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber, they're all under contract. So now the question becomes, which of those guys from that group are you going to look to move to get a number 3, to get another number 2 option next to Kyrie and Luka? So I think that that's kind of where this management's going to be looking at. I don't see them taking a step back by any means of looking to get rid of Irving or Doncic. It's fully going to be buying all into this championship vibe and figuring out which assets they can sacrifice moving forward to go all in right now and really pursue a championship. So to answer your question of if there's still those question marks of, oh, will Kyrie jump ship? Could he join LeBron? I just don't see that happening. He's happy in Dallas. Dallas is happy to have him. And that pairing of Doncic and Irving has worked out really well, as we can see with their success in the postseason.
Brett, what are some realistic expectations for Bronny James in the NBA? I mean, I've seen so many conflicting reports. Some, they come from haters who just don't like LeBron. He's smaller than expected when he made his way to the NBA draft combine. Can you give us, what could we realistically think out of him? I mean, obviously you draft Bronny to get LeBron, but is he going to be a quality player in any way, shape, or form in the NBA?
He was the biggest unknown heading into Chicago's draft combine last week. And that was the number 1 player that scouts, executives, and league personnel wanted to see on the court. They wanted to see how Bronny looked. Was he in shape? How did he look in the scrimmages? How did he look in these agility skills? Everything was put under the microscope for Bronny James. And that wasn't just because he's the son of LeBron. It's because he's this draft's most intriguing prospect. McDonald's All-American coming out of high school, one of the top-rated prospects, went to USC, and then he had that cardiac arrest last summer, and that kind of really set back his status of his basketball future. Was he going to be even cleared to play in the NBA was the biggest question. Ultimately, this past week, NBA doctors cleared him for all physical activity, for all NBA-related activities. He went through the strength and conditioning and agility workouts. He looked good in them. His measurements, yes, a little bit smaller than projected. But then in the scrimmages, I think that he did raise some eyebrows. The first scrimmage, he didn't really shoot the ball well. I think he only had 4 points exact, and didn't really make any threes. He looked a little bit passive at times as a ball handler. But then the second day, he looked good. He scored double-figure points. He was distributing the ball a lot better, looked a lot more confident from the three-point line. And I think that's what teams wanted to see. I think that the most important attribute that he displayed was his defensive versatility. He's able to guard pretty much 1 through 3 on the court, despite the fact that he's a little bit undersized for guarding some threes. But I'm all in on the idea of him being a Davion Mitchell type player from the Sacramento Kings, potentially growing into a player like Derek White on the Boston Celtics. I think that that's really what we're looking at for Bronny James right now. And his draft stock is really going to fluctuate based on how he looks in these pre-draft workouts. Teams have been calling up Rich Paul for days to try to get Bronny James in for workouts. They want to interview him. They want to see him on the court in these individual situations. And ultimately, I do think that the Combine helped Bronny James a lot this past week. I could see him rising up draft boards. I recently put him back up to number 60 in my draft board that was released today on Clutch Points. But he is going to be featured in our mock draft 2.0 next week. And I'll tell you this, he's going to be moving up from his spot of where he was to the Lakers in the second round. I do think that there's going to be teams in the early second round of this draft that either trade up to get Bronny or simply have their eyes on him, not only because of the potential to lure LeBron James there late in his career to play with Bronny, but also because this is a prospect that has all the athleticism, checks off all the boxes of those intangible type qualities where he can be a leader on the court, he's going to be a good locker room guy, and he's going to be dependable on defense. So I do think that the interest in Bronny has risen a lot since the NBA draft combine last week.
Brett, fantastic stuff, man. I know why you work for Clutch Points now, because that interview, that analysis was clutch, man. It was 10 out of 10. We appreciate you hopping on with us.
Well, I appreciate the time, fellas. You guys take it easy this week.
You too, man. That's Brett Siegel, national NBA writer for ClutchPoints.com, getting you caught up on your NBA. Really appreciate him taking time. Fantastic stuff from Brett Siegel. We really appreciate him hopping on to talk a little NBA. We'll have to have him on again soon.
WORD Center. Here's the Upstate's most trusted forecast on the Fan. Upstate. Partly cloudy skies. The low temperature of 63 degrees. Tuesday, sun.
Yes, it's true. If you heard that Diesel and I will be on location this Wednesday, you heard correctly. We will be live at Ingles in Greer. Hope you can join us there. We broadcast from Ingles bi-weekly every Wednesday, bi-weekly, because we really do appreciate what Ingles does for us. Now, speaking of every week, every day, we get on this very station every single day and tell you why you should shop at Ingles. My favorite thing about Ingles is the meat department. The sign above the meat department says best meat in town. Well, they can have that sign at Ingles because it's true. They only sell USDA Choice or Prime. Those are the top two grades of beef. If you did not know, most grocery retailers sell Select. But when you visit the Ingles Butcher Style Meat Market, you'll notice the huge selection, the on-site market meat manager, and their beef is cut fresh in the store. When it comes to meat, trust Ingles. It truly is the best meat in town.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your basement and damaging your home. Mold, cracks, and of course visible water are just a few signs your basement is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Mount Valley Foundation Services. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at fixmyfoundation.com.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Turn on, leave on.
Do you have issues with AI songs and labeling them under the same artist that we're used to hearing?
When she smiled, out came the sun. And there ain't no.
Guess what? It's not Randy Travis singing this new song.
Oh, God. Yeah, I do. I have a huge issue with that. I mean, like, singers die, singers retire, singers quit, singers lose their voices. It happens. You got to get the old singers out of the way so that the new singers can come up and get famous, right? That's part of the business. It's part of life.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
Turn on, leave on. Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Tony Naziri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. College baseball, Clemson will play at the ACC tournament this week in Charlotte. They are seeded second in the 12-team field. The Tigers open play Thursday against Miami. South Carolina playing Tuesday in the SEC tournament in Hoover, Alabama. The Gamecocks are part of the single elimination round, seeded 10th, and they will face Alabama, with the winner advancing to Wednesday's action against Arkansas. Wofford will face the Citadel on Wednesday in the opening round of the SoCon tournament. That'll take place in Greenville. The Big South tournament will be played in High Point, North Carolina. Presbyterian earning the number 1 seed and will face Charleston Southern on Thursday. That'll be followed by USC Upstate facing High Point. Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves playing a doubleheader today at Truist Park after Saturday's game was postponed. Download the Odyssey app and search the Fan Upstate and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Tony Naziri, and that's your Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
Your morning jolt of sports. It's the Rob Brown Show.
Harbaugh was actually a studio analyst.
In the early 90s?
Yeah.
This was also about the time that Jim Harbaugh had a recurring guest role on a television show that I did watch religiously in the early 90s. Do you know what it was?
Cheaters.
No. Very well done.
Don't hit snooze. Hit play. The Rob Brown Show. Now morning 6 to 10 on the Fan.
The Fan Upstate.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind.
Here we go.
Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
The Odyssey app makes it easy.
With Rewind, you can relive big moments from Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and
Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel.
Just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate.
there's a case to be made. Like, I really do. The course record at Valhalla is something that I am looking up because okay, here we go.
Schauffele set the PGA Championship single round record.
Gotcha.
Round one, he was what, -9, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Opening round, right?
Yeah, opening round.
Yeah. I was just curious to see what the record at Valhalla was because, that's one thing that if you look online at like different media outlets talking about the PGA Championship, that's one thing that you see. Like this article here, did Valhalla Golf Club prove itself worthy of more major championships or no? And there's a lot of talk about that.
I think it shows itself as a tour-worthy course.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's a PGA Championship-worthy course because, again, a lot of guys finished, finished under par and finished 10 strokes or better under par, which, like I made the case earlier in the show, you love to see guys struggle with courses, right? Like you love to see courses where the winner is sub 10 under par, which means, you're shooting 2 under every day out there. But you also love to see the courses where they shoot sub 20 under par because that just means they've gone out there and absolutely demolished a course. But it proves the course to be maybe not worthy as a PGA Championship level course. There's cases to be made for both styles of golf.
So here's one article, Diesel, and I want to get to this Bryson DeChambeau audio in a second. But here's an article, and the title of the article is "That Should Be Valhalla's Last Major."
Ouch.
Tell us how you really feel. I know that Bryson's kind of like the enemy, right? He's kind of the guy that people don't like because
he's a traitor.
Because he is a live guy, right? So I know
because he's accepting Saudi oil money.
Well, being a live guy. So I'm not a big fan of all the live guys. Like I don't watch live. I don't care about it.
I don't even know how to watch live golf.
I don't either. However, Bryson did kind of capture me as a fan yesterday. He really he played well, but it was not enough. As I said in the very first segment, it was intriguing watching him go and finish the 17th, finish the 18th, and then go to the driving range, continue to warm up, continue to stay loose, and at the same time look over and look at that big screen TV and watch Xander birdie on 18 for the win. Here's what Bryson had to say after the round.
My side of the coin.
As he's drinking his water bottle.
But whatever. I played well. Didn't strike at my best all week. Felt like I had my B game pretty much. My putting was A+, my wedging was A+. Short game was A+. Driving was like B. Shot 20 under par in a major championship. Proud of myself for the way I handled adversity. Definitely disappointing, but
so it is disappointing for him because, like you would think, Diesel, when you go and shoot, what he finished 20 under. Like if you would have told Bryson before the weekend started, hey, you're going to shoot 20 under, there's no way you could convince.
Feel a real good chance. A real good amount of chances, sure.
You don't win. You shoot 20 under and you don't win the tournament.
Don't feel too bad for him. He still made $1.998 million to come in second.
Is that all?
Yeah. Xander pulled down $3.33 million. DeChambeau in second, $1.998, and third place Victor Hovland cleared $1.258 million.
So what you're telling me is he's not going to be in financial trouble anytime soon.
Hey, coming in third place in the in major golf tournaments can be very lucrative.
Still pays pretty good, huh? So Bryson finished second. I was really impressed with Victor Hovland over the weekend, finished 18 under. And then, as you mentioned, Colin Morikawa, Diesel, who was tied for a good majority of Sunday, right? I mean, he was going in with Bryson for a good while, tied for second. I was really impressed with McIntyre and Shane Lowry. Shane Lowry, a British guy who finished 14 under, tied for sixth on the weekend.
I think Shane Lowry's Irish.
Oh, I'm sorry, Irish. He's an Irish guy. Yeah, you should
we could
by
call
his
up
beard.
Odie. We can call up Odie, and you could ask him if being Irish and British is the same thing.
Probably not. I would assume. I don't know why
we don't have enough
British.
time to fight this one out anymore.
Now, here's the question we didn't get to in the first segment, Diesel. And we'll have to get back to this right now. Tiger didn't make the cut. The question becomes to you, Diesel, as well as our audience, how many cuts does Tiger need to miss in order for us to be able to say, okay, it's time to retire?
I think we all already know it. We all know it, but we don't want it to happen, right? Like nobody wants to see the end of an era. Tiger going out there, even when we know he can't win. Like, let's be real. None of us really believe Tiger could ever win a major again.
No.
He's done. He's done winning majors. Maybe on PlayStation.
I feel like
right?
it's already over.
Yeah.
The era.
But like Tiger at this point is basically a mascot for golf.
Yeah.
He's a mascot. I mean, like, don't you love turning it on and watching the seniors out at the Masters, giving it one more go out. Like these are courses that they used to be the best in the world at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, you see Arnold Palmer out there hitting shots, and you're like, oh, that's cute, that's nice. Let's all right. Now we want to see your grandkids wearing the white suits running down the hill. I mean, like these guys are still mascots. They're basically Jimmy Dugan in a league of their own. He's like, you want me to step out of the dugout, wave my little hat in the air, give the fans a thrill?
So what you're saying is he's in the John Daly mascot era.
Yeah.
Phil Mickelson era. Even though Phil hasn't retired.
Man, Phil fell off fast, didn't he?
Yeah. He did. And again, I know that Tiger's not competitive in terms of majors, but man, you can't make the cut anymore. It might be time to think about it. I'm sure he already has. Hey, Diesel, this morning I got an email. Or excuse me, I saw it this morning. It was last night when it came in. And it's from PGA of America. Apparently I'm on their emailing list, okay? Do you know what the subject line of the email from PGA of America was that they sent out to, I'm sure, millions of people? The subject line. It was about the Valhalla tournament. Reads, as you can see if you're watching on the stream, wire to wire for the Wanamaker Trophy. They promoted the show. PGA did. That's the reason they sent it out.
I like the way they spelled it.
And they went on to say, it took a final putt on 18, but at last, Xander Schauffele is a major champion. Sunday saw low rounds from DeChambeau, Hovland, and Dietrich. It was not enough. After starting with a record-tying 62 Thursday, Schauffele finished the job and went wire to wire for the Wanamaker Trophy.
How about it?
So we
Love
appreciate PGA shouting us out.
If you, Cole, I don't know if you noticed this. I did. It makes me laugh every time. Justin Thomas had this. Xander Schauffele had this. I didn't necessarily see Bryson do it. Others did. You ever notice like when golfers take their hats off, the top half of their heads are white as could be.
Yeah.
The bottom half, very tan.
Farmer's tan.
Yeah. Would you, Cole, how would you deal with that? Would you put sunscreen on the bottom half of your face or cover the bottom half of your face and then just go outside to get sun on the top half of your face? Or would you use fake tanner to even that out?
I think I'd use fake tanner.
Because like fake tanner, you even that out and it's done in a day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But if you do like the SPF 200 or
that'll
SPF
make things
1,000,000
worse, man.
from the bottom, and then you're gonna burn the top half of your
Yeah.
head, and you're just gonna look weird. Like, do these guys not put on sunscreen?
I would say no.
They're out there all the time.
I mean, maybe they do, but
it's just so funny.
The last thing I would want is, I mean, I don't know how golfers do sunscreen or not.
They look like a candy corn turned upside down.
What if you put sunscreen on and then go to wipe your face or your forehead, and then you get your hands all oily?
They make sunscreen. There's
gloves.
special kinds of sunscreen for that. That's what a glove on your left hand is for.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're fine. I've played golf with sunscreen on my face many times, and I'm fine. Yeah.
Well, I again, I'm not a golfer.
These guys are spending 4 or 5 hours outside every single day.
For sure.
I'm just saying, you got to protect against skin cancer.
But you know what? I think when you see those millions cash it makes it worth it.
You can go to the doc. You got plenty of money to go to the best.
Hey,
doctors.
doc, you mind taking this skin cancer off? How much? Yeah. I mean, I'll write the check. But anyways, I do look forward to, like, I don't know if I'm diehard enough yet, Diesel, to be able to go watch the tournament at Fort Worth next weekend. I really care about the majors, Well, I turn it on Sunday, sure. Watch the final few hours, but I can't get as invested yet in the I don't want to say normal tournaments.
Yeah.
But like, for example, this weekend in Fort Worth, I can't get that invested yet, but I do. I am all in on the majors.
Well, the great part, Cole, is if you're not that into, the whole tournament with ESPN Plus, you can jump in on certain groupings.
That's true.
And follow one golfer for the entire day if you want to. You can they'll group you on. They'll have a stream of 2 or 3 selected holes. That's not to say that your favorite golfer, let's say you just pick some random guy who finished 27th yesterday. He's probably not going to be featured on ESPN Plus, but the Jordan Spieths, the Justin Thomases, the Xander Schauffele's, those guys are always featured on there. So you can always follow your favorite golfers on the Plus.
Madcraft says, go old school and wear a visor. One guy recently interviewed a visor bucket hat, or invented a visor bucket hat, so your alternate, it'll tan evenly. What is that? A visor bucket hat?
A visor bucket hat. Is that for like the bottom half of your face?
So I love bucket hats, but they have the brim all the way around. So does it just
so there's
longer?
no top. So it's like, it's just like something like that goes around and only comes from here down.
Is that real? Is he lying to us?
That's a really good way to look really silly out by the
Send us a picture of that.
When we come back, Cole, we'll get you caught up on the Daily Wires, the buzz happening in sports today. There's a couple that we didn't get a chance to get to earlier in the show. We're going to catch you back up on those and get you a little update on the Braves game.
God.
What is this? 10 against the Padres? They're probably going to lose anyway. We'll finish. We'll get you fixed up with that on the other side, right here on the Fan Upstate. Cole, there is so much happening in the sports world. Anybody says it's slow news day, they're lying. There's so much going on. It's easy to get lost. It's easy to pass by some of the biggest and best stories in sports. That's why we do this segment where we get you caught up on all the buzz.
Really professional, huh? Really
Cole,
professional.
we call this our daily wires. We'll start from the bottom this time because we didn't get through all of our daily wires last time. This one I know everybody's super excited to hear about. Whoopi Goldberg has come out in defense of Harrison Butker. Why? I don't know. Because nothing makes any sense anymore. Harrison Butker goes to, I don't even remember what the school was. Some college, a Catholic school, gives a very right-wing leaning speech about homosexuality being out there in the media all over the place, about women's place being in the homes, et cetera, et cetera. And then Whoopi Goldberg, a gay black woman, comes out in support of him. Tell me, wait, what? None of this makes any sense anymore. Like, you can't even expect who's going to be on what side of things. It's crazy. Clemson basketball has added a transfer from Illinois State. Miles Foster averaged 12.5 points a game last season. We'll see. I mean, hey, if he was good at that level, he can move up and maybe be productive at the ACC level as well. The Braves have lost 3 in a row to the Padres. Game 1, they lost 3-1. Game 2, 9-1. Game 3, 6-5. And Cole, do you have a live update?
Yep.
On the Braves score right now?
Yeah, they're losing $500 billion to nothing because they suck.
It's only been 20 minutes. How are they down 5 billion runs already?
It was 5 billion 100.
Oh,
Get it right. It is 1-0 Atlanta in the middle of the second.
Well, they won't be able to protect that lead.
I predict final score San Diego 4, Atlanta 2.
Oh, come on. You're going to say that the Padres are going to sweep the Braves. That's
yeah.
Tough. Atlanta is 26-17 on the season. Probably somewhere in the range of 5 games back in the NL East. The 5 games back is what we had earlier today, and that's changed since the loss in the noon first pitch game. So I think they're 5.5 games back of the Phillies right now. South Carolina got swept by Tennessee over the weekend. They lost 6 straight to end the season. 33-21 overall, 13-17 in the ACC. Clemson swept Boston College over the weekend. They finished the season 40-13. As of right now, it is projected that South Carolina will be in Clemson's region in the D1 baseball tournament. They are expected to be in the Clemson regional alongside Louisiana and Army. The NBA finals, conference finals have been decided. Mavs Wolves versus Celtics Pacers. The Mavs Wolves starts on a Wednesday. Celtics Pacers start tomorrow. Joey Logano won the 2024 All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. He led 199 of 200 laps. Cole, like, is that good for racing when somebody leads all but one lap in an entire race? I wouldn't say that is. I understand that it's an all-star race.
If it happened in a regular race, I think there would be cause. Like if it happened more than one time.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
this is all-star race.
We don't want to see that level of dominance. That's what short track racing should be, shuffling guys back and forth throughout the race. Speaking of shuffling, Kyle Busch shuffled Ricky Stenhouse right into the wall. Ricky, after the race, Cole, I got some audio here. Ricky was asked, this is actually right after his accident. Ricky was asked what he would do when he saw Kyle after the race. This is what he had to say.
Just told Randall that he could tell Kyle I'll see him afterwards over the radio. Since there's no tunnel here, I can't leave. So I'll be here when the race is over.
What do you need to hear from him?
Nothing. I'll handle it.
Have you actually watched the video of this interview? Ricky Stenhouse has that look of an ethnic woman, a Hispanic woman who is angry, who is pissed. He's like, I'm going to go see him after the race.
Yeah, he would
have give him a 4. Fight did break out. Ricky Stenhouse found Kyle Busch in the pits immediately after the race, threw a punch. They were in each other's faces. Unfortunately, we don't have that audio because it was being covered up by a whole bunch of fireworks that were going off at the time. So not particularly great audio, but Ricky did throw a punch. Kyle fell backwards over some tires. crews all stepped in. Even Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s father, senior, I guess, Ricky Stenhouse Sr. got involved, and they all had to get separated. There was some big hayseed redneck dude up on the truck, like, y'all get out of here. Y'all get off this truck now. Come on now. That was really fun to watch. And that's the kind of fireworks that I want to see, right? That makes NASCAR entertaining for a guy like me who used to love NASCAR. It was kind of falling off a little bit with my NASCAR love. Jefferson County, Kentucky prosecutors have not yet made a final decision on the charges against Scotty Schauffele. We've been looking at Twitter constantly for any updates on those reports, but some reports came out that those charges would be dropped this week.
Yep.
The question is, will Scotty be able to go play in Fort Worth this weekend?
I think so.
I think so as well. I don't think there's any way. I mean, this narrative that he dragged a cop, that's ridiculous. He accidentally hit the gas pedal. The cop didn't let go of the side of the car. And, it makes it sound so much worse to say he dragged a cop rather than what actually happened, which was an accident. Xander Schauffele won the tournament with a 21 under for the weekend. And those are it, Cole. Those are all of your daily wires today.
One more thing. The SEC homers want to say one thing real quick.
All you ACC homers out there, your conference sucks.
That might still be one of the best calls we've gotten yet.
Love it.
Your conference sucks.
Oh, Madcraft has sent me a photo.
I saw it too, man.
Oh, God.
It's great.
Oh, God.
It's fantastic. Don't say anything but negativity here, Diesel.
I mean, that hat flat out says, I will say something inappropriate to the beer cart girl.
It's fantastic. Fantastic. That is definitely a
we need to see a golfer, Cole, with long hair wearing this with his hair coming out.
Yeah, I gotta have one. I want one. Where can I get a bucket hat visor?
You just got to buy a bucket hat and cut a hole in the top.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. You think any company actually made this?
Yeah.
Under the assumption that they were going to make money off of this? No.
Hey, another Daily Wire. It's time to panic if you are a Caitlin Clark fan. Diesel, in her debut, she had 20 points, but with the 20 points, she had 10 turnovers.
Yeah.
Most turnovers in a debut in WNBA history.
Yeah, there was some video of her getting just juked out of her shoes in, I think, her second game of the year. She still has not won a game in the WNBA.
Bust. I'm calling it a bust.
After 4.
She sucks. Overrated. Women's basketball, right?
It's dead.
It's dead. It's done. What's not done is wire to wire. We'll be back at you tomorrow, Tuesday edition. We'll see you tomorrow.